You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look me better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back to MangaMuse, guys. We are happy to have you back with us today in part 2nd of What If Naruto Enters God of War. Make sure to like, share, subscribe and also press the bell icon so that you never miss a great update. Also make sure to check out the wonderful author NeonZangetsu on FANFICTIONnet. Well, let's continue with the story now.
Kratos found himself somewhat concerned. Admittedly, he did not show it well. He knew he didn't. It was a source of never-ending frustration for the Spartan. He'd seldom saw his softer side these days. Even now, after all these years, he often had great difficulty expressing anything beyond simple stoicism. Some might call him blunt, laconic, reserved, even. Perhaps they had the right of it. But he was not cold as they might claim, nor was he blind to what was unfolding here before his very eyes. Hold still, you. I can't place the protection stave if you keep squirming. Naruto laughed despite the girl's admonishment, grinning as her fingers traced his neck. I'm trying. But it tickles. What he saw taking place before him. It concerned him a great deal. Kratos was not often prone to fits of introspection these days. But he found himself dwelling on such things now. This girl who tended to his eldest boy, there was more to her than met the eye. For one so small, the girl was wise in the old ways, but his concern went beyond her magics. It was her personality. She was quick to take charge, an admirable quality in a warrior, yet she was clearly too small to be one. She reminded him of Faye. A younger version, perhaps. Quick of wit, and able to coax rare responses out of him as few could these days. This, he thought, was good. The boy had been too quiet, lately. Sullen. The warrior in him wished to dismiss such things and hasten onward. They had a long road ahead and their time was wasted dallying here. Faye's voice nagged at him. He imagined what she might say. This is good for him, grumbles. Let him linger a while. He wanted to heed her voice. He was hurting from her death still. To take it out on the boy would be unfair. And yet there was the way this girl carried herself. Walked. Talked, even. Like an adult trapped in a child's body. Was she under a curse of some sort? Moreover, was she a danger to them? He did not wish her such. The girl had been helpful, thus far, though he was loath to admit it. They had harmed her boar after all. A debt was owed. He would see it repaid, and seek better counsel, before making such a judgment. A truce appeared to have made his nevertheless. He caught his son staring from a wooden chair, grinning as his brother squabbled with the girl. Naruto had splashed some of that strange gold paint on her face, which had her admonishing him all over again, but he only laughed all the louder. She's nice, huh? The lad chuckled. Can't remember the last time I heard brother laugh like that. Kratos tried to restrain a grunt. He failed. HRRMPH. A truce was of his BLD. Yet the boy was not. Did that make him any less his son? No. He had found him alone in that strange place, within the fire and flames, and taken him in. Whatever his BLD, he was his boy even if he did not know how to woo. That, Kratos supposed, was his own fault. He'd never seen the need to teach him such. There were always more important skills to learn. Atreus did not understand. He was green. He did not see the bond blooming between these two. This fleeting connection, this tiny tenuous thread that one day, someday, perhaps years from now, might bloom into something more. Atreus could not see it. But he did. Yes, it concerned him. Very much so. Kratos did not believe in fate. Prophecies were meant to be broken. But he could not bring himself to sever this thread. A lifetime ago, he just might have. Fortunately, he was no longer that man. He would wait, for now. He would see. And if she became a danger, he would act. Hold still, you. I can't place the protection stave if you keep squirming. I'm trying to. Naruto didn't bother to hide his smile. But it tickles. You're doing this on purpose, Aincha. I am not. Be still. Ah. Freya exhaled in a long-suffering sigh and bit down on her smile as she traced a fresh protection stave into his neck. He'd already messed up the last one with his squirming. Even now Naruto shivered and laughed all the while, forcing her to make slow, broad strokes. For someone who'd nearly butchered a boar only a few hours ago, he seemed awfully ticklish. Come on, that tickles. She tooted a little at that. It'll do more than tickle if I don't apply this properly. That had him simmering down. His smile faded, replaced by a dour look. All right, I'll be good. Ouch. She fought down a grimace of her own, not liking the way the light had gone out his eyes just now. Was this her fault? Nonsense. She chided herself for such thoughts a second later. She was the goddess of love, battle, and FRTLTY. Hers was not the heart of some mere maiden to be wooed, and she had sworn never to fall for that trap again. Love was a lie. Odin had proven that. There could be no such emotion when you didn't know the other party, and she certainly didn't know this brash blonde enigma of a boy. So why was she faltering so? Naruto didn't remind her of Baldur. It wasn't that. No, not in the least. If anything, his antics made her think of a less drunken Thor, and wasn't that saying something? There could be no relation there, though. It just wasn't possible. Thor only had 2 boys the last she'd seen. Magni and Modi. Then there was Thrud. Gods, she'd been a child when she saw her last. She'd spent years in Asgard. She would have remembered someone like this, surely. Odin had done much to her, taken much from her, but he couldn't meddle with her mind. She'd prepared for such a horror, taken countermeasures he'd never been able to breach. Then why in Valhalla did this boy seem so familiar? She'd felt this feeling before. This heat, this fire, and that lightning spark in his eyes. He had a curious air about him, that of someone who'd lived a life before. She was so close to an answer, she just knew it. Could he really be a? Naruto's hand touched hers, and her train of thought derailed faster than a minecart on a rickety rail. Thanks for this, he hummed at her. I appreciate it. Really, I do. She tootayed and looked away. It's nothing, hey. He grabbed her and drew her close. So you're supposed to be queen of the Valkyries, eh? His lips met her ear in a soft whisper. I met a Valkyrie. Her name was Air. Give her my regards if you see her. Yeah? That girl's still alive? Just what have you seen? The boy only grinned. In that instant a spark of scarlet passed between their interlocked fingers. Fry felt something shifted in her soul. A tiny trace of her power trickled back into her. Not much. Not enough to break any of the curses binding her, not in the truest sense of the word, but she felt something loosen deep inside her all the same. A stray semblance of strength. What are you? Boy! Kratos barked, diverting her attention with his deep, resonant voice. We are leaving. He shrugged, gave her a wink, and bounded after his family. See you around. They certainly didn't linger, in a matter of moments they were gone. Freya watched them depart with a sigh. She shook her head. Foolishness. There was a certain noble savagery to this Naruto, if one could call it such, one that worried her. He clearly wasn't cruel. If he were, poor Hildisvini never would have been butchered on the spot. And yet this strange sense of unease persisted. He'd fought Baldur, no, that was something of a misnomer. He'd survived Baldur. Doubtless he had Odin's eye. A distant rumble of thunder rippled through the sky. Freya took her lower lip between her teeth and worried it nervously. They would be fine, surely. Their father was a god, to say nothing of Naruto's murkier origins. Surely they could fend for themselves. She'd done her best to mark them with protection staves, even if she wasn't quite sure Naruto's had entirely taken to him. Magic seemed to slip off that one like water off a Dreki's back. There was a reason she'd had to reapply it so many times. And yet. She counted to 10, until she was certain they were gone. Perhaps she would look in on him. She whispered a spell under her breath. Faki. Her form shrank and sprouted feathers, followed by wings and a beak now as she assumed an avian form. From there it was the work of a moment to reorient herself. She'd given them more than enough of a head start by now, surely, doubtlessly they'd found the boat and set out by now. And if they hadn't, well, no point in waiting, then. What was the worst they could kept up to? Someone yelped in the distance. Big snake, very big snake. With a frustrated scree, Freya took wing and hurled after Naruto's family. Air struggled. She could feel the corruption eating away at her. For every soul she saved, Valkyrie or no, she had her limits. She was falling. Just like the rest of her sisters. Soon enough, she too, would falter. But until then she persisted. There wasn't enough room in the boat for all 3 of them. In hindsight, Naruto knew it should have been obvious. Father was rather large and tall, and although Atreus was small, there simply wasn't room enough for a 3rd body in the little canoe. Well, there was, but having 3 bodies to a boat at once left them sitting dangerously low in the lake and at risk of taking on water. Thankfully that problem was easily remedied. You can walk on water? Of course he could. He wasn't sure how or why, but it was a skill his body remembered, or perhaps retained, one he'd not had a chance to use before now. The waters of the lake bubbled and hissed beneath his feet, but it held his weight, allowing him to plod after his brother and father in their little boat. Speaking of father, oh, gods. He could feel Kratos glowering at him. You did not think to mention this? Always could, he shrugged as he rubbed at his neck, unwilling to look their way. His skin itched where Freya had traced her protection spell. Everything was frozen back at the house, so I didn't use it. Tiny flecks of gold paint came away under his fingers and he panicked, yanking his hand back. Never came up. Boy. He didn't much like the way father drawled that word just now. Look! Atreus cried out before another argument could bloom between them. Out there in the fog. I see a statue. A statue did indeed loom in the midst. Kratos steered the boat towards it. Runes lay within, glimmering gold. Sacrifice your arms to the center of the water. Atreus read them with a frown, peering through the grime. Awaken again the cradle of the world. He leaned back on the boat, wearing a pensive expression. Throw our weapons into the water? Guess that won't be a problem for you too. Naruto looked to Kratos. Shrugged. Atreus squirmed under their gaze. Are you gonna do it? Kratos hefted the Leviathan axe. Naruto raised his dented Spartan shield. Together they let them fly, hurtling end over end into the depths. A moment passed. Another. 3, now. In unison, their hands rose. One returned. The other remained. Naruto hefted his soaked shield, but Kratos frowned at his still empty palm. The axe did not return? Beneath their boat, the water began to bubble. A deep, sonorous grumble shook the lake. And then, the water stirred. Perhaps stirred wasn't the right word. The lake absolutely sucked at their boat, its once peaceful surface churning into white water rapids. Naruto lost his footing and went down, would have drowned if Kratos didn't grab him and drag him into his arms. Hold on, boys. He heard a muffled grunt from Atreus. Okay. A massive shape rose from within the waters, casting them in its shadow as they looked on. Before their very eyes a great slitted eye opened, larger than all three of them put together. Still it rose, dwarfing them all, rearing back over them like a "oh gods, was that really a?" Kratos summed it up quite nicely. What is this? Atreus gulped and whispered softly. It's the world serpent. Big snake. Naruto's mind babbled in a blind panic. Very big snake. Very big didn't even begin to describe this monster, this absolute behemoth rising from the water. Bigger than anything he'd ever seen. No, that wasn't quite right, was it? A sudden headache rattled his head, forcing him to grip his skull to stymie it. He'd seen something like this once before, hadn't he? Not as big, but close. The pain his temples intensified and the memory eluded him. With nary a sound the serpent opened his gaping maw and spat something out. Father's axe came tumbling down and bit into the boat. He ripped it free, brandishing it before him. Stay calm, boys. I am. Atreus grinned. This is great. Naruto balked at his little brother. In what world? Much to his chagrin the beast saw them. Its gaze followed him as he squirmed away from Kratos and settled himself to stand on the water's now calm surface once more. In that instant he could have sworn recognition passed through its gaze. It rumbled what might have been a greeting, its voice a deep bass rumble that tattled their ears, a noise he couldn't comprehend. Kratos reared back. It speaks? Yeah. Yet again, Atreus baffled him. Mom says he's friendly. Naruto flicked a look his way. What is it saying? I don't know. It loomed closer to them. No, to him. Ah, CRP nice serpent. He held up his hands in a vain attempt to ward it away. Good serpent. Please don't eat me. Remarkably, it did not. Instead it butted its snout against him, bringing with it the faint scent of the sea and another, more familiar smell he couldn't quite quantify. When it inhaled, Naruto nearly lost control of his legs altogether and pitched back into the water again. The serpent rumbled something else at that, almost sounded like a laugh, and moved by to settled itself on the mountains past the lake. With his passing the water level dropped around them, but he scarcely noticed it all. Atreus certainly did. That was amazing. I thought it was gonna eat you for sure. Naruto growled, still clutching. Atreus. The young boy blinked. Yeah? Shush. His little brother did, if only for a moment. Wait, there's a shipwreck way over there. See that? He stabbed a finger that way. And there's the statue of Thor. Except I can see a lot more of him now. There's AB over there, too. I can even see the mountain. Look it. That building's leads from the foot of it to that golden temple. There's even a dock there, next to the flag. Easy there, little brother. We'll get to it all sooner or later. Kratos rumbled an affirmative. The water dropped when the serpent rose. It was all there, just under the surface. Naruto let him talk, he was too busy trying to calm his hammering heart. That was a big snake. Docking the boat proved a simple matter. He followed at a slower pace, taking the temple in. Perhaps this golden temple had been grand once, but whatever it once was lay tarnished by its time in the sea. Flotsam and jetsam lay everywhere, heavy sea vines twining about braziers and statues alike. Atreus paid it no such heed, he was already darting ahead, gaze fixed on a familiar peak in the distance. Is this the way to the mountain? Kratos stepped past him. So it would seem. Well, well. If it isn't the bearded beaver and his succeeds, a familiar voice braid, cutting him off. Have I got something for you three? He knew that voice. Atrus perked up, seeing a familiar figure at the opposite end of the temple. Brock? But how did you get here ahead of us? None of your effing business, the blue dwarf barked a laugh in the distance. Now get in here, I got something for ya. And don't go making pig eyes at my spot I saw at first. A blonde brow arched. What do you think he wants? Kratos rumbled. To test our patience. The world went sideways. It all happened so fast. One moment Naruto was preparing a clever retort, in the next he heard an almighty crack of noise and found himself sprawled out on the floor. He rolled over, righting himself with a groan, only to fail as his left side spasmed. Sparks skittered over his body. His head felt like it was filled with clouds, his ears ringing as he struggled to right himself. What happened? An unfamiliar boot entered his field of vision and he braced himself for a painful kick. It never came. Oops, a low voice sighed. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to hit you that hard. Up you go. A large hand gripped him by the shoulder and hoisted him upright. It didn't belong to Kratos. Hey! He pushed at them and stumbled back. Let me go. All right, no need to squawk. When he finally found his footing, someone was waiting for him. A great big barrel-chested man, large and strong, clad in a dark cloak, the hood drawn back to reveal his face. His was a mighty visage rimmed by dark hair and a bristling beard. A shiver shot down his spine. F me. Kept me waiting, the big brute rumbled. Might not be able to sense ya, but the big snake's kinda hard to miss. An angry hiss reached his ears. He could see the world serpent rising behind him, but slowly, too slowly. Kratos finally found his feet and called his axe to one hand, anger burning in his eyes. Who are you? Don't care about you too. Thor jerked his head to the side. Want a word with the boy here? Won't take long. Naruto and Atrus exchanged a baffled look. Not you, the brute waved a hand at Atrus. You. Kratos stepped forward. We have no quarrel with you. Let us pass. Too bad. Hey, old man. Catch. The bearded brute swung his hand. A wild blur of lightning and metal burst from his belt with impossible speed, struck Kratos in the chest and launched him into the world serpent. Both went flying into the lake. All this, in an instant. There was no time to blink, much less react. Your turn, boy. Naruto flung himself in front of Atrus. No time to do anything but raise his right hand. Something large and heavy landed in his grasp, causing him to stagger. He'd caught a hammer? Not just any hammer. A large hammer with a short handle, a weapon so heavy it dragged his arms right down to the ground. Realization dawned. An old memory surfaced, a foggy recollection. He'd seen a weapon like this once before. Bathed in BLD. Even if he hadn't, he still would know that hammer in his grasp. Anyone worth their salt did, because everyone knew the stories. He was looking at Aesir god. But not just any god. Oh, bugger. Heh. Thor, god of thunder, grinned down at him. It was not a nice smile. Knew you were the one. Quick as a flash, he snapped his fingers and the hammer shot back out his grasp to land in a waiting hand. You were pretty easy to find. Shouldn't picked at the mark on your neck, kid. A brutal roundhouse smashed into his face, driving him down to a knee. Atrus surged forward, knife in hand. Leave him alone. Dread in Naruto's herd mounted. Father could take a hit from Mjolnir. His brother couldn't. He flung out an arm. Stay back. Atrus faltered. He saw the pain in his brother's eyes. The confusion. Then he didn't see anything at all, because Thor stepped in and swung. Naruto raised his shield for all the good it did. The hammer smashed through his guard, hit him square in the chin and turned his world white as driven snow. He sent him hurtling into the sky. Clouds flashed by. In the distance, he heard Father's roar, and then a grunt of pain that could only belong to Thor. Then that, too, was gone. All the world blurred around him. He hurtled through the clouds and crashed down somewhere else. The boy was dead. Even now Kratos saw his son's demise unfold in his mind's eye, replaying over and over again in an endless loop. He had no one but himself to blame. It was all his fault. Chest aching from that powerful blow, he'd nevertheless dragged himself back onto the platform to face this unexpected enemy. He immediately wished he hadn't, because the moment he did, he saw his boy fling himself before Atrus to protect him. Watched, unable to move, as that hammer struck his boy in the chin with an awful crack. Then both boy and hammer were gone, hurtling away into the clouds. They reappeared on the horizon a moment later and struck the mountain, the very same destination Atrus had pointed out only moments ago. Seen from afar, Kratos heard the impact. Felt it even from this distance, rattling his very bones. He himself would be hard-pressed to survive a fall like that. The boy was hardy to be sure, but there could be no doubting the result. It would be a miracle if he still lived. Kratos no longer believed in miracles. Faye had been his one and only miracle. She was gone now. And now so was another of his children. Ah, SHT. The big bearded brute who had taken him scratched his head and turned toward the mountain, watching idly as a lone bird glided toward it. Guess I got too excited. Didn't mean to hit the little turd that far away. Kratos twitched. Atreus clambered to his feet. Murderer. Thor grunted, looking a little chagrined, as though he'd knocked over a flagon of ale. He's probably not dead. Ain't nothin' personal. He waved a beefy hand their way, unaware of their mounting ire. I don't give a SHT about the two of you, hell, I don't even know who you are. Those words were the spark that ignited Kratos. Anger beyond anger. Rage beyond rage. Fury boiling in his veins beyond anything he'd ever felt. Kratos did not scream. He did not howl. The noise he made went beyond that. He roared. And in roaring, he moved. Clenched knuckles barreled into Thor's jaw, snapping the Asur's god's head to the right with an audible crack before he could even comprehend the danger. A bloody tooth whistled away into the lake. Irrelevant. Kratos rode the force of the blow and hammered a boot into the brute's belly, snarling now as the oaf stumbled back with a startled gurgle. Said gurgle became a grunt of pain as the Spartan called Faye's axe to his hand and chambered a vicious swing into his lower torso. Cold steel bit deep into godly guts. Not deep enough. A swing like that would have cut Zeus himself in half. Thor tore himself free with a grunt and stumbled back, rubbing at his bloody belly. He'd barely cut him. Kratos knew the look of a fearful man. There was no fear in the god of thunder. Surprise perhaps, but not fear, no even anger. A look of wild delight flashed across his bearded visage, bloodlust incarnate. The F was that? Thor barked a laugh. I thought you were just some old man, that the kid was the real prize. But you're not, are you? You're a. Too much talk. Not enough BLD. Not enough dying. Open palms crashed down on either sides of his head, deafening him. He reeled. A hand rose, trying to call his hammer. Kratos tore it down and flung him across the temple. Atreus was saying something. He could not hear him. Could not see him. There was only the oaf before him. An oaf who was grinning now, absolutely grinning from ear to ear. You seem like a calm and reasonable person, he beckoned his way. Are you a calm and reasonable person? Kratos only snarled. Didn't think so. Thor cackled. Me neither. Overhead, the world serpent hissed, casting them in its shadow. No. Kratos snarled at it. He is mine. Ha! Thor used the distraction to barrel into him, forcing a grapple. The kid was special to you, huh? Don't worry. We'll take real good care of him. A red mist fell over Kratos' vision and he no longer heard any words. He was incapable of thought. There was only the rage. The monster awoke. Freya wanted to scream. Fool of a boy. What was he thinking, standing up to Thor? She beat her wings furiously and hurtled toward the mountain. Naruto's thoughts rushed back in fits and spurts. First. His chest ached something terrible. Second. Why was the ground so cold? Third. Ow whoa. He knew he must have blacked out however briefly, because now that he'd come to, he found himself chilly. Downright. Freezing, really. His fur coat was ripped and torn, matted with BLD, exposing his shoulders to the elements. His entire body shuddered and shook as he tried to breathe, managing only a faint rasp of air. He soon realized why. A thin plume of steam left his lips and he tried to rise, only to discover a certain hammer currently crushing his chest to the ground. A very familiar hammer. Memories rushed back, and with them, a painful realization. Lungs. Air. Breathe. Needed to breathe. Heaving, he got a hand under it and pushed. It didn't budge. Blue eyes boiled red, his pupils going slitted as his world darkened. Move! A hollow rasp tore out of him and he shoved the bulky weight of Mjolnir aside, leaving it to splinter the stone in its wake. Air flooded his lungs and he rolled over with a rasp, spitting down into the snowy stones. Wait. Snow? Stone? He craned his neck and saw the BLD at his feet. That was an awful lot of BLD. Was it really his? How was he still alive? Standing was another mistake. The moment he tried he lost his lunch, what little he'd eaten in Freya's hut beforehand. A hand speared out to steady himself to no avail. Everything was reeling. He felt sick. It wasn't just his body, the air was thin here wherever here was. His world reeled around him like a ship caught in a storm and it took him the better part of 10 seconds to MSTR himself. Even then he didn't dare trust his legs for fear of falling. Get up, damn it, he smacked his face twice. The pain centered him. There's work to be done. You survived, a woman's voice crooned behind him. Interesting. It seems death truly cannot hold those with purpose after all. Ironic, given your origins. He looked up and realized he wasn't alone as he'd thought. A slender lady in green gazed down at him from on high, her eyes glowing gold. He tilted his head to regard her and she lifted her chin, smiling at him as though he were an interesting pet or some such. Strange. He could almost see through her. Stranger still, he didn't sense any hostile intent from her. What was she? On a whim, he asked as much. Who are you? Your savior, her lips curled in a sardonic smile. You live because of me. I expended a substantial portion of my remaining power to save your life. As such, you are in my debt. His brow furrowed. Why? Because I have plans for you. Rise, child, her voice was curt, commanding as she beckoned to it. This is neither the time nor the place to dally. Rise and face your doom or fall to it. The choice is yours. More riddles. Naruto gripped his skull and closed his eyes. Get out of my head. He heard the ethereal specter tut softly, reminding him of a parent admonishing their child. I am not in your head, boy, any more than Hestia was. Hestia? The woman he'd seen in the flames? Be grateful I saved you. There will not be a second time. When he opened them again he found the specter already gone, leaving him to wonder if he'd imagined seeing her at all. A thread of breath caressed his ear, rooting him where he stood. You shall know me as Athena, the one true goddess. We will meet again. Naruto shook off a sudden chill that had nothing to do with the cold. That name. He'd heard Kratos mutter it once while he slept. Hearing it again now filled him with an awful foreboding. But he didn't have time to dwell on it. He knew that. Where am I? A cursory glance confirmed his worst fears. When he looked around he found only mountains looming around him. No lake. No temple. Just snow and rock and a strange gate of some sort. Home. Where was home? Where were Kratos and Atreus? Were they safe? Were they all right? His pulse quickened in his ears, a steady staccato beat pounding faster and faster as he failed to find them. A raven croaked on a stone nearby. He gave it a nasty look, but the bird didn't budge. Thor. Kratos and Atreus were still with Thor. His eyes fixed on Mjolnir, still silent and inert at his feet. This is all your fault. He drove a crushing kick into the mighty hammer and regretted it as his foot howled in pain but only briefly. Anger had him driving his heel against it again. Everything was great. Another kick, another spasm, another echo from the hammer. Why did you have to interfere? Kicking that thing won't make you feel better, brother. A sober voice chimed behind him. It'll only bring ye pain. Naruto pivoted in place. Blinked. Several times now. Scrubbed at his eyes now, all for naught. Horned man trapped in a tree. Why? Why was there a horned man in a tree? And why did he only have one eye? Ah, I get it, said I fell upon Thor's hammer, still inert against the ground. Fighting that fat Doberwurya, his bearded visage twitched in a faint smile. Bit reckless, but you're still alive, so I suppose that counts for something. Naruto glared back over his shoulder at the misty peak, still no sign of his family. No way he was getting back to them anytime soon. Was Thor not going to chase him? Mjolnir remained rooted where it was, which suggested he'd not had the time to call it back to him. That was a good thing, right? It meant he was fighting. Father would beat him. He had to beat him. No. He would beat him. No one could beat Kratos. Nobody. It just couldn't be done. So, his strange acquaintance hummed, drawing him out of his maudlin thoughts. What brings you all the way up here? Don't think about it. He didn't want to think about it. Distract himself. Now. He turned to face the strange man. And you are? Me? The horned man almost sounded offended by his apparently appalling lack of recognition. Don't you know? Why, I'm the greatest ambassador to the gods, the giants and all the creatures of the 9 realms. I know every corner of these lands, every language spoken, every war waged, every deal struck. Naruto tilted his head. You're also stuck in a tree. Oi, now, lad, the older man huffed. I didn't interrupt your introduction. Let me finish mine before you go ripping into me. I really didn't introduce myself. Semantics. A rueful smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. The brief bit of levity lightened his soul, heavy thought it was. As you were, then. Many thanks, the poor fellow puffed himself up as best he could despite the roots entombing him. Now where was I? Aha. They call me Mimi. Smartest man alive, and I have the answer to your every question. Curiosity reared its ugly head and temptation with it. All right, he thumbed his chin. Why did Thor attack and separate us? Ah. Mimir blinked his one eye. Paused, now. Okay, there are a few gaps in my knowledge. Odin's had me imprisoned here for let's see 109 winters, he mumbled to himself. I'm a clever lad, I can piece it together, I promise. Just give me some time. Another glance to Mjolnir, and the black bruise on his exposed chest. The fat dauber smacked you good, didn't he? That's how you landed here. A glum nod. My condolences. He's a right bstrd, isn't he? Naruto knew the change of subject for what it was and shrugged. How do I get back to the lake? That's quite the journey there, brother. In a hurry to be somewhere? Our mother is dead, he saw no point in hiding it. She wanted us to spread her ashes from the highest peak in the realms. Another look about had him grimacing. This certainly looked like the mountain he'd seen from afar. Though I got here a bit early, seeing his father still has her ashes. Mimir winced. Oh. That didn't sound good. Oh, what? I'm afraid you're thinking of the wrong place, little brother. He granted him a rueful grimace when he squawked. The highest peak in the realms is not here in Midgard. It's in Jotunheim, realm of the giants. His heart hitched. That can't be right. It couldn't be, surely. Jotunheim. That implied unpleasant things. Mom was well, Mom. He'd not pried into her past any more than she had his. Don't believe me? Take a look. Mimir's good eye glowed golden cast, illuminating a bridge and beyond it a peak taller than any other. That there is the last known bridge to Jotunheim in all the realms. See that big mountain? Looks like a giant fingers scraping the sky? That's the highest peak in all the realms. Not here. When he didn't respond, he barreled on. You'll need a bifrost filled with the light of Alfheim to access it, and a secret rune. If it still exists, only a giant would know it. His face fell. Why couldn't the journey be simple? And all of them left a long time ago. True, Mimir chortled, but today the winds of fate have kicked up a strange vortex of coincidence. Fact is, there's only one person alive who can get you where you need to go, and luckily for you, a certain fat dauber sent you right to my doorstep. My schedule's wide open. His brow furrowed. So you're saying we should go to Jotunheim? It's your best and only move from a tactical standpoint. Mimir retorted, much to his chagrin. It's the one place your enemies won't follow. Baldur, he growled the word. He hadn't seen that lunatic since he'd killed him. Theirs was a reunion he wasn't looking forward to. Understanding flashed across the horned man's face. Odin's best tracker. Met the mad bstrd, have you? He rubbed his neck, still having the bruise to prove it. Fought him once already. Mimir barked a laugh. And you're still alive? If memory served, and his still did, Freya was Baldur's mother. He'd read the stories. Lived them firsthand. A man blessed with invulnerability to all threats, physical or magical. Yet for all that he'd hurt him. Several times. That invulnerability had held, but he'd punched through it on occasion. If that lunatic truly was Freya's boy, he had no longing to kill him. A mother should never have to suffer the death of a child. Didn't mean he wasn't above binding him to something if he got a chance. Him to a. Mostly. What about Thor? He might be a bit of a problem. But you seem like a capable lad. If your family's anything like you, I'm sure you'll manage. Alright. Kratos was probably pounding Thor into a pulp right now. No way he'd lose. Atreus knew better than to get involved in a fight like that, surely. Still, his head was spinning from all this. So many revelations in so short a time threatened to unman him entirely. It took a fair bit of focus to calm himself once more. He couldn't afford to dally here. Long journey or no, he needed to get back to his family. Closing his heart to the fear, he faced Mimir once more. What do I need to do? First you need to cut off my head. Come again? It's simple. Odin made sure that no weapon, not even Thor's hammer, the old sage jerked his head to the still inert hammer not a yard away, could free my body from these bonds. Naruto stepped in and gave one such root a tug. It held. He could break boulders and cut clouds, but for all his strength it didn't budge. His fingers bit deep, but the tree held. Maybe if he uprooted it? No, that wouldn't work. The ground held when he tried to punch it, and the tree even more so. Its roots were far too deep. Finally, Mimir had enough. Whatever you're thinking, lad, don't. I'd prefer to keep what bits I have left. Then how can I take your head with me? Fortunately for you, you don't need my body. Just my head. Like I said, he twitched his good hand, still bound by roots. The trick is, we need to find someone who can reanimate my head using the old magic. Magic? His mouth twitched. I may know someone. I? A witch. A goddess. His tongue betrayed him. Her name is Freya. Mimir choked on his own spit. Freya? Oh no, lad. No. Find someone else. Anyone else. There is no one else. He raised his voice when the sage tried to protest again. Whatever your quarrel is with her, we're on decent terms. She'll help if I ask. Not the Freya I know, she's like to grind me into a pulp. He lifted his chin. She won't. You have my word. You seem awfully keen on her. Quick to defend her, too. Wait. Mimir blinked. Looked at him. His eyes bulged. Don't tell me you're sweet on her. Naruto clapped a hand over his mouth. Shoo! Not another word. Mimir's laughter was muffled against his palm. It didn't stop until he pinched his nose. Ack, his laughter cut off with a squawk. Alright. Not like I have anything to lose at this point. She might do. Worth a try, if nothing else. The lack of levity wasn't lost on him. If she fails you'll die. That might be preferable. A haunted look loomed in Mimir's good eye. He tortures me, you know. Every day, brother. Odin himself sees to it personally, and believe me, there is no end to his creativity. Every single day. His head bobbed with the weight of each word. This ain't living. It's agony. And just like that he found himself motivated. I don't have anything to cut with. I'll have to use my hands. Or. He tried to lift Mjolnir. It didn't budge. No dice there. Whatever gift of strength he'd experienced prior, it wasn't with him now. He struggled with it a minute longer, red-faced and puffing, even managed to lift it an inch off the ground. Probably best not to use that anyway, Mimir offered a nervous laugh. You might smash my skull as soon as free me, and then where would we be? Fair point. Naruto dropped the hammer, stepped to him and laid hands on his head. You may want to close your eyes. A low peal of thunder rumbled in the distance. Naruto swore. No. Not now. He was still watching the clouds darken overhead, still trying to tear Mimir's head free when Mjolnir leaped off the ground behind him. It became NTMT with his face. His nose bent horribly, breaking beneath the force, then he was flying, face skidding across the ground. A hand closed around the back of his head and forced him down as he slid, tearing a deeper furrow in the stone to pummel him into the ground. Cheeky little SHT, a familiar gravelly voice growled over the ringing in his ears. You don't touch a man's hammer. The ground splintered under clawed hands and he kicked backward like a mule. A pained grunt reached him, then the pressure pinning him eased. The moment it did. He flung himself forward and raised his shield for the onslaught to come. No attack came. Thor glared back at him covered in wounds, the most prominent being an ugly slice in his belly that even now wept BLD. He looked like he'd just come from the fight of his life. His right side was burned, while his left arm hung useless at his side. Someone had given him a black eye, and he'd lost 2 fingers besides. Yet for all that, he was still standing. You have any idea how annoying that was? As he looked on, the God of Thunder set a hand his shoulder, bared his teeth in a bloody snarl, and popped it back in. I was enjoying that fight with your old man, then you went and tried to lift my hammer, and I had to fly over here. A snap of his fingers and Mjolnir flew into his grasp once more. There are some lines you just don't cross, kid. An agonized noise pierced the pair. It took Naruto a moment to realize it had come from his lips. If you heard him. Relax, he's alive. Pissed to all hell, and hollering his head off, but he was still breathing when I flew off. Naruto reached up, grabbed his nose, and wrenched it back into place. Send me back to my father. Your father, ha, he boomed a laugh. That's rich. He ain't your daddy. His eyes clouded. He is in every way that matters. Heh. Thor didn't rise to the bait, he only smiled. You'll see. He wanted to kill him. To reach inside that belly wound and have his guts for garters. He longed to rip and tear this monster, this destroyer who dared strike at his family. But fighting him now served only himself. He had his objective, and however much Thor might gall him, he wasn't it. Kratos and Atreus needed him. Vengeance did not. Get Mimir's head and move on is what I'd like to do, he grimaced, but he isn't going to stand by and let me do that, is he? He tried bolting past him anyway. Maybe if he moved quick enough the big bugger wouldn't be quick enough. A hand closed around his shoulder, reeling him. I'm afraid I can't let you do that, boy. Thor yanked him backwards. The world blurred and his back crashed into Mimir's tree. Leave the lad alone, Thor, the old sage tried to help the only way he could, vocally. I'm the one you want. Mjolnir cracked across his face, snapping his head to the side. Quiet, you. Mimir spat BLD, daft bugger, sorry lad, I tried. Thor paid him no heed. Those cold blue eyes fell on his weapons. Or rather, the lack thereof. Spear still broken, huh? Where's your sword? Naruto righted himself with a groan. Why would I have a sword? Something darkened in the God of Thunder's eyes. Pity. Thor was on him a moment later. Pride had him trying to block. That same pride left sent him sprawling with a dented shield. The very moment he found his feet, Mjolnir filled his vision. He evaded it by the narrowest of margins, felt the crackle of lightning sear his hair, then struck back, bashing the golden shield in his face. Once, twice, thrice now. BSTRD didn't even flinch. On the fourth he caught his arm and wrenched his wrist out place. Is that it? I expected more. Mjolnir raced in and brained him. Stars, whole galaxies, burst before his vision. He felt his eyes go red and reeled himself back. No. Stay in control. What are you doing? Let me out. You'll die. His skull ached. Then I'll die in control. Idiot. Come on. No way did Baldur get his SHT tossed like this. He heard something crack as Mjolnir smacked aside his shield again and hammered his ribs. Stop holding back. Naruto jabbed a fist into Thor's belly wound. A backhanded slap sent him spinning to the floor. Better, but not good enough, a boot stomped down at his head, forcing him to catch it with both hands or be crushed. Maybe I'll leave you here and pay Daddy Dearest another visit. Thor pushed down, eyes sparking a wild, bloodlust blue. See how sturdy your baby brother's spine is while I'm at it. Might even pay that Valkyrie bee of yours a visit. All the world went red. You keep them out of this. Then show me who you really are. Naruto shoved him off and slashed a hand through the air. Clawed fingers raked across Thor's exposed gut, adding a fresh wound to the one Kratos had inflicted. He stormed in and struck, tanked a hit on his shield and tried to sweep Thor's legs. It was like kicking a tree. He didn't budge. A gravelly laugh rose in his ears. Mjolnir hurtled at his head. He caught it in both hands. Mistakes were made. He'd forgotten just how heavy it was. Trying to hold it back was akin to catching a mountain. So heavy. Too heavy. In an instant he was driven to a knee. Sparks skittered down the hammer and into his hands, leaving his fingers aching, then plain numb. But he couldn't stop. To let go now was to have his head caved in sure as SHT. Listen, boy. Thor leered down at him. I'll tell you what I told your old man. Give me everything you have. He could smell meat on the man's breath, strong enough to make his eyes water. I know what you are. We both do. Show me the monster inside. Mjolnir broke the deadlock, slammed forward, bashing him in the skull with a heavy broadside. BLD stained his vision. Then came steel. A single blow ended it. His world went black as he fell flat on his back. It felt like he was standing on the edge of a great cliff, peering into the abyss, and the abyss stared back. Let go. His mind teetered on the edge. Just let go. That last tiny thread holding him back snapped. Let go of everything. All around him, the ground began to crumble in his mind. He saw a distant specter of fire and ice in his mind's eye, and beyond them, a great fox trapped within a cage. He knew him. Didn't he? He took a step towards it. So tired. His eyes felt heavy. The would be so nice to just rest. Oh ho, no. Thor's voice pierced the darkness, gloating even in his death. You don't get to go yet. It's over when I say it's over. Pain. Lightning raced through his chest, jolting him back to the waking world. He immediately wished it hadn't. The moment he jolted upright, Thor was on him again. His shield rose. The god of thunder wailed on it in recompense for his temerity. Again and again and again until the poor thing finally breathed its last and shattered. Blocking without a shield only made it worse. He broke both his wrist and collarbone. Get up! Another sparking hammer blow rocked his world before he could even process the pain, turning everything black and gray. I'm not leaving until I see the real you. His head snapped back beneath another blow, spitting BLD, what's wrong? Still the onslaught continued. You think you can burn everything, latch onto a new family, get a clean slate? A tooth whistled free as he decked him across the face. That ain't how it works. We both know you're not some weakling. You're better than that. A kick launched him away, only for a hand to catch his ankle and send him slamming down onto his back. Naruto's body could only take so much. This time? It broke. His spine snapped. Limbs went limp. In shock, he fell. And still, Thor did not relent. Get up. Hateful blue eyes glared his way. I can't, you bstrd. He really couldn't. Thor seemed to realize that a moment later, because he waded back in. You can't even move anymore, can you? He heaved a sigh, unaware of what he'd done. Damn it. Guess you hit your limit. Can't bear looking at you like this. Probably best to kill you anyway. Merciful, really. Mjolnir swung down to end his life. The raven suddenly shrieked from its stone perch. Thor froze. Rounded on it with a snarl. What do you mean? No. Naruto snapped. There could be no other word for it. He couldn't die here. He absolutely could not. Anger overpowered his fear. And so, he let go. His wounds closed. Bones set themselves. His spine mended. A burning clawed hand snaked upright, caught Thor's wrist and squeezed. It means no. Golden red eyes gleamed up at him. And I've had enough. Confused flashed through the bearded beefer's face. The hell re you on a boorg? His words warped into a grunt as he drove an ungodly uppercut into his chin. He flipped back, arse over elbows. He was still tumbling when a kick caught his throat and launched him clear off the peak. Down the mountain he went, flopping through the snow a short distance before finally hitting a boulder that held his weight. Mjolnir struck the ground at Naruto's feet with a sonorous clang. Savage scarlet slits fastened upon it. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. Kill him. A deep, dark voice inside him exulted. Take that hammer and bash his brains in. He reached down for Thor's prized weapon. Grasped its haft in hand. It was just as large as before, yet something had changed. Its weight seemed so much lesser now. Heavy to be sure, but not so much an impediment as an annoyance. Or perhaps he knew how to hold it. Maybe he'd always known. It came free from the snow and rock with a sullen grumble, inch by angry inch, until finally, he hoisted it over his shoulder. Mimir whistled a ways behind him. Well, that's not something you see every day. Naruto hissed. Quiet, tree god. Look, lad, I'm really not. A dark look quelled him. Shutting up now. Naruto glared back at the hammer in his grasp. He could feel it fighting him, trying to break free and return to Thor. Almost as though it were alive, rejecting him. For some reason that made him even angrier. Here he was holding possibly the most powerful weapon in all the realms, and the DMN hammer wanted to sulk? You don't want me to wield you? Tough. Pivoting on one heel he flung it at Thor's prone form. The portly man saw it coming and ducked with a speed bellying his girth. The boulder behind him burst as he dodged the fatal blow. Not so Naruto. Clawed fingers found his throat. He whirled and leaped back to Mimi's peak, smashing the larger man down with all the fury of a raging inferno. Thor buckled beneath him. His right hand grasped at his, trying to pry his palms free. The left rose and snapped his fingers. Mjolnir raced into to bash him on the back of his head. He shrugged it off and flung Thor away. Even as the burly brute fell, he reached around and got a hold of the hammer once more. Ha! A little fight in ya, eh? I like it. A roundhouse smashed him away. Then you're gonna love me. Lad. Mimir's voice broke through his haze. Calm down. You're on fire. Literally. Naruto glanced down at his hands, smoldering now with fiery wrath. It didn't hurt. On the contrary, he felt good, energized, strong in a way he'd been before. Complete. Whole. Raw red sparks crackled at the edge of his vision, glimmering at the edges. His rage locked down on the burly brute before him and all the world faded away. Thor must have seen the look in his eye too, because he brandished Mjolnir and granted him a bloody grin. There he is. Mjolnir swayed in his grasp as he staggered to his feet. Remember this feeling. Remember what you are. Naruto's temper flickered like a windswept candle. What? Not important. Thor only grinned at him. You'll figure it out. Fight now, talk later. I don't understand. You will. I can see it in your eyes. The hammer hurtled after him, flung with intent to bash his skull in. You're a destroyer. Like me. A clawed hand caught the hammer. Red eyes narrowed. I know. The hammer was still heavy. Terribly so. Yet here in this instant, he could still hold it back. He'd always known, hadn't he? His foe only laughed and recalled the hammer back into his waiting palm. There he is. That's my boy. Now fight like you mean it. Scarlet light swelled around him. I'll kill you. With an attitude like that, you just might. Naruto lunged. What followed couldn't be called a fight. Fights had rules. This was a brawl. They raged back and forth like Asur gods of old, ripping and tearing. BLD stained the snow time and time again until it was all he could see and feel. Time stretched on into eternity as they tore one another apart. For every hit one took, the other gave just as good. But all good things must come to an end. Fire and light collided in a maelstrom of death one final time. Thor barreled in and swung for the fences. Naruto raised his shield arm, braced himself for the blow and punched with the other. Lightning flashed. Searing red pain. He cried out and jerked back, arm hanging limp at his side, but the deed was done. Mjolnir had recoiled from the force of his punch, dragging Thor's arm up and his guard with it. And he still had one good arm. He screamed and struck with a thunderous punch, stabbing Thor in his wound and all but folding the thunder god over his fist. BLD splashed across his face, but the god of thunder only granted him a feral grin. My turn. Naruto realized his fatal error a moment later as a beefy hand burst through his chest. They'd impaled one another. I see now why Baldur had so much trouble with you. Thor leered down at him, bloody teeth bared. Even this lesser version of you. But I am not my brother. And your family? Heh. A wild look passed the length of his bearded visage. The Allfather's got plans for them. Clawed fingers stabbed deeper into his gut, cutting him short. He coughed up BLD. Then we'll kill him, too. Mjolnir swept in at his blind side. It landed in an open palm. Naruto squeezed. Lightning licked at his fingers. Those clawed digits bit down and a piece came away, tearing Thor's weapon in two. A deep belly laugh was his reward, followed by a headbutt. He stumbled away, still clutching his prize. Thor teetered in the opposite direction, gripping his guts, literally, in one hand, face gone pallid. Even so he laughed. That's boy gonna need a new hammer after this. Naruto lurched after him. He could feel the in his chest hole closing, but slowly. Far too slowly. Come back here, not done with you, yet. No. Not his boy. Never his boy. He had to stop him here. Mjolnir was broken, but he was still alive, had to finish him. Good fight, kid. Thor granted him a bloody grin once more. We'll call this one a draw. A swarm of ravens swept around him, dragging him away. Be seein' ya. Try not to die. Wait. Naruto stumbled after him, only for his fist to pass through open air. Then the birds were gone, and Thor with them. I'm not done with you, ya fast bstrd. He took a tottering step forward. I said wait. Only the echo of his own voice answered him. Rage bubbled up in him. He'd been so close. A scream built in his throat, but all that emerged was a low wheeze, a plume of steam in the thin air. He looked down and saw why, realized just where the hole in his chest was. Oh. Thor had hit a lung. No wonder he could barely breathe. Hopefully that wound would close. Wasn't sure if he could regrow a lung. Why didn't he go for my heart? He'd had a chance. He had seen it. But he hadn't. Why? If someone had broken his favorite weapon, he would have gone for the kill. Even now the fragment of Mjolnir tingled and sizzled in his hand, spitting stray sparks. It was not an insignificant portion. Brock might want to see it. The thought brought him some comfort. You all right there, brother? Naruto blinked. Question mark. Mimir? Right. Mimir. Mustn't forget Mimir. His dazed mind began to babble as the last of the red fire bled away from him. In its absence, the pain began to return. He took a faltering step forward. Another. A third, now. A sudden spasm seized his chest and he fell against the sage's tree. He clutched at it, gasping until the pain faded. Feel awful, he used the roots to drag himself upright. Gonna cut off your head now. Hold still. The sage sputtered. In your shape? Maybe you should wait. I don't think I'll get another chance to do it. Mimi closed his eyes and bowed his head. Right then. Do your worst. I'm ready. There will be pain. A tired chuckle answered him. Pain's an old friend. Naruto swept clawed hands forth, locked both hands round the man's head and pulled hard. BLD sprayed forth to spatter his face. Mimir's head hit floor. His knees followed suit a moment later and he knew his legs would hold him no more today. Even then, his hands managed to bind Mimir's head with a bit of cord and bind him to his belt. There. One step down. Only 9 to go. He fell onto his hands with a groan. His strength was fading. He could see the BLD pooling beneath him. That wasn't good. Don't pass out. Can't pass out here. Darkness swarmed in despite his best efforts. His skull kissed cold stone. The last thing he heard was the distressed cry of a falcon followed by the gentle touch of a familiar hand. This is a dream, isn't it? Naruto knew it had to be, that he must be dreaming, because several things were wrong with him. For one, he was healthy and whole. Standing up, his armor long gone. Likewise his weapons were nowhere to be seen at that, and he felt none of the crushing fatigue from his battle with Thor. He didn't know why. He wasn't sure he wanted to. His surroundings were another matter. Large trees loomed on either side of him, lush and green, rimmed by a gentle sunrise and the beginnings of winter's first snowfall. He could taste the bite of the cold to come when he inhaled, see a warm plume of steam when he exhaled, feel the frozen ground beneath his bare feet. Yes, he knew these woods well, because he was home. Son? His spine stiffened. Don't turn around. Mustn't turn around. He would see her if he did. And if he did, he would break. He just knew it. A shiver shuddered his shoulders. You're not real. He choked the words out. Leave me be. The world shook around them. Slim arms enfolded him from behind and pulled him backward into a warm embrace. He's found me. You shouldn't be here, not yet. Go back to you, father. She kissed the back of his forehead. Wake up. It wasn't a pleasant process. A stabbing pain, a sudden start, and his eyes were open. He could see again, feel hands on his chest, the hammering of his still beating heart, his own panicked breathing. He couldn't move his right side without utter agony. Looking down only confirmed his fears. He saw the bandages. Felt the stitches beneath. Hurt. It hurt. Everything hurt. Calm down, a soft, familiar voice crooned in his ear. It's all right. You're all right. You've been badly hurt and your lungs are damaged. Lay still. Wait. He recognized that voice and this ceiling. Freya's house? How? He rasped, alarmed at the weakness of his own voice. How'd you get me down the mountain? Unless you can change into something bigger than a bird? If she could turn herself into a dragon, he might have to re-evaluate their friendship. Dragons were awesome and all, but he didn't fancy his chances against one. Not as such, he spied a spark of magic out the corner as Freya worked. I had help. Kinda doubt it was Mimir. He could see the man's head on the nearby table, still dead. Who, then? She fell silent. He wondered if she would answer. And then, finally, there was a man. Curiosity reared its ugly head. Father? No, he heard her rummage for herbs. Not him. He propped himself up on an elbow, only to curse as his body buckled. Where is this man? Gone, she swept back over, herbs in hand. He left soon after I stabilized you. Did he give you his name? Her lips firmed into a thin line and she dodged the question entirely. I'm going to spell you to sleep now. I need to clean your wounds. You don't wane to be awake for this. He quivered at the idea. Going back under after what he'd just seen? He didn't want to, but he saw the necessity. Will I wake up? She gripped his head in her hands and touched her forehead to his. I will not let you die. Her spell touched his mind and he lowered his mental barriers, allowing it in. It felt like being swaddled in heavy fur blankets. Peaceful. Comforting. That's nice. Wait, his eyes snapped open, fighting the spell. That head. Mimir. You need to revive him. We need his help. Freya made a face. You're certain? I am OGs, getting sleepy. Darkness swept in. Breathe. Kratos needed to breathe. Inhale. Exhale. In. Out. In. Out. Easier said than done. The rage was out of its cage, and it had no longing to return. Even now he seethed with every step. He could have killed Thor. He knew he could. He should have killed him. He would have killed him if the fool hadn't fled toward the mountain. He itched to wrap his fingers around the man's throat and squeeze, squeeze, squeeze until his eyes burst from his head. But no, rage would not serve him here. Focus would. DSPLN as well. He and Atreus had spent the better part of the day making their way up the mountain. It was slow going. Their wounds had healed but their spirits were battered. They'd encountered another strange dwarf, paused long enough to let him enhance the axe, then moved on. He could see strange black smoke billowing ahead, surging from a gap in the mountain. He hoped it would not impede their progress further. They could afford no delays. Father? Kratos shoved his anger back into its cage and locked it tight. What is it? I'm sorry. Atreus flinched when he glanced back at him. I couldn't do anything back there. I'm weak. The boy did not know his true nature. How could he? He had never been told of such a thing. He thought himself mortal. You are not weak. Yes. I am. A shout burst out of the boy as he balled both fists at his sides. You and Naruto fought gods. Gods? All I did was hide. Both times. Atreus was breaking. He could see it in his eyes, the slouch of his shoulders, the slowness of his steps. He knew the pain well. He must speak to him, say something, anything before he went mad. But he could not bring himself to tell him of his true nature. Not here. Not yet. And so he settled for a half measure. Look at me, boy. Atreus complied, just like his namesake. Father? I know your pain. Kratos knelt before him, laying a hand on his shoulder. I once had a brother too, just as you do. His name was Deimos. He was my younger sibling, taken when I was young. The boy perked up. I have an uncle? No. You had an uncle. His face fell. Oh. The point I make is this, he said the words for his sake as much as the boy's own. Life is fickle. Think not of your brother's death, but of the time you spent with him. The memories. Good and bad. They will sustain you until we find him. You think he's alive? He had to be. He must. It was a fool's hope, but it was all he had. Kratos turned away and traced his scarred stomach, running pale fingers over the injury there. An old wound where he had run himself through with the blade of Olympus nearly an eternity ago. He had died once before and survived. The boy might surprise him. We press on. Atreus shouldered his bow and nodded. Yes, sir. The harsh cry of a bird split the silence from on high. A falcon winged down from on high, landing roughly before them. As they looked on, it grew, shedding its wings and claws for an altogether softer form. The girl rose from her crouch, stumbled, caught herself on a rock. Righted herself, now. Saw them. Wait. You mustn't touch the black breath. Was that the name for this foul-smelling smoke that loomed ahead? More meddling. Now is not the time, which? Your son lives. Kratos reeled back 1 foot. He felt the moment of weakness could be allowed, given what he'd just heard. Never had he needed something so badly and never known until he received it. Her words hit him hard, harder than the hammer of Thor. He was nearly undone then and there. Where? She faltered. He's very weak, I nearly wasn't able to move him. Where is the boy? He was dreaming again. For once, Naruto found it a peaceful one. Sleeping on a field of clouds, really, what could be better? Warrior. Shame it didn't last. Battered blue eyes creaked open. Yet another Valkyrie loomed over him. She couldn't be anything else. Not air, though. Not this one. Her armor reminded him of a vulture, all gold and red, yet her appearance was anything but. She seemed far more solid than her shield sister, corporeal somehow, wide peach and a full bosom easily visible beneath her armor. She crossed her arms over it now, and despite her frightening helm, he could almost hear the smile in her voice. Do you seek Valhalla? Her words were a low, resonant hum. Do you wish to enter the All-Father's hallowed halls? Odin. Merely the mention of the man had him gnashing his teeth all over again. Not really. She tilted her helmeted head. Why ever not? Do not all warriors seek such? He lifted his chin. Because his son nearly killed me. I see. Let us speak as equals, then. She tore her helmet free and flung it away. Lively violet eyes beamed back at him, framed by a lopsided grin, and a wild mane of red hair. Ours halls are vast and our food fine. You can drink and feast there to your heart's content. Thor himself would be heartened to have a warrior such as you by his side once more. Once more? Unbidden, he recalled the brute's words during their battle. That's boy. Was he? No, no, no. Don't think about that. That was impossible. He recoiled and shook his head. I can't go there. Not yet. Very well. Much to his surprise, the Valkyrie didn't argue. You will join us sooner or later. It is only a matter of time. Battle is in your BLD. Quick as a flash, she laid a hand on his head. Her powerful grip forced his head upright and her smile vanished, leaving him to wonder if it was an act to begin with. His eye is no longer upon me, her voice intoned, go, now. Seek my sisters. Seek Sigrun. Reality rushed back. Blue eyes opened to a dull, aching pain in his chest. He knew this roof. Back at Freya's again. The room was dark, lit only by a faint fire in the hearth. A faint, almost earthy smell reached his nose. Chorley must have moved underground again. Understandable. Best to stay hidden from the sons of Odin. But where was? There you are, a familiar yet merry voice chimed just out of sight. Finally awake, are ya? Naruto palmed his face. Was having a dream or maybe a nightmare. Hence my bellowing. He knew that voice. Didn't he? Mimir, he craned his neck. Smiled a little when he found the man's head sitting on the table opposite his borrowed bed. Where's Freya? The head grinned at him. Your lovely lady. He flushed. She ain't mine, head. Went to fetch your bstrd talked right over him. I suspect she'll be back shortly with him and the wee lad in tow. HRRM, his grunt would have made Kratos proud. I saw another Valkyrie in my sleep, one I didn't know. Oh, the decapitated sage perked up. What did she look like? He described her. Ah, yes. Mimir laughed. The sight of Gondal always took my breath away. She had a silver tongue, a sharp wit, and struck a figure so stunning, it literally drove men insane. Odin forbid her from setting food in Midgard after a time, as insanity is not a welcome trait in Valhalla though, she's clearly stopped listening to him now. Clearly. Naruto chose to keep her final words close to his chest. And you seem rather chipper, given your circumstances. Came the reply. Freya was kind enough to resurrect me at your request, despite her reservations. And you? Still feel like death. He touched a hand to his injured side. His hand brushed the fragment of Mjolnir, crudely bound to his felt by a leather cord. Good. He still had it. Got this to show for it, though. Might show it to Brock when I get a chance. You rang? A sudden voice had them both jumping. Naruto swore a blue streak. Would there be no end to today's surprises? Brock, he balked, startled to find the very same blacksmith standing between him and Mimir's head. Where'd you come from? None of your business. He scowled, in no mood for such an excuse. I think it is, seeing as you weren't here a second ago and there ain't no way in here. Fine, fine, don't get your fuzzy head in a twist, the Azure Dwarf waved a hand, it's a little trick me and Mtwit of a brother can use. Like I said, worry your fuzzy head about it. Fuzzy. Oi. My hair ain't that long. Snot important, the short smith snapped, cutting him off. That doodad you got there, lemme have a look at, Naruto gripped Mjolnir's fragment protectively, suddenly loath to part with it. You mean this? Yeah. Give it here. Reluctantly, he did so. Ha! Brock all but yanked it out his grasp with a triumphant cackle and hefted it high. I knew it. You busted that BSDRD's hammer. Sindri's gonna have a cow. Hey, hey! Don't go running off with that. I earned that thing. Brock scoffed. You got rocks in your head? You know we made this here hammer, right? That was news to him. No? Well, we did. Despite his best efforts, Naruto found himself growing used to the dwarf's crude speech. I'll tell you the story sometime. Might even be able to make something with this. An idea dawned. Any chance you could fix my spear and shield? Sure, but not with this. Nah, gonna make something even better. Just you wait. Okay? Naruto laid back down with a pained grunt, somewhat mollified by his words. What are you gonna make with that? A hammer to end all hammers. Brock's grin was positively feral. Something to make Thor quake in his boots. We're gonna show that hairy arsehole what fair. Course, he paused, thumbing his chin as he considered the broken shard in his grasp. I'll probably need brother for this. The door crashed open. Mimir sighed. Speaking of family. Boy! Naruto heard Kratos and jolted upright on instinct alone. A spasm of pain forced him down with a shuddering gasp. When he looked back, Brock had vanished, leaving the broken piece of Mjolnir to clatter upon the floor. He reached for it, and to his surprise, the fragment leaped into his palm. Oh, that clever little bstrd. Boy! Kratos saw him. Kratos rushed him. The boy flinched. Kratos slowed. The embrace that followed was given with the utmost restraint, if only for fear of hurting him. Atreus wriggled between them and for once he didn't shy away from him. We thought you were dead. Almost was, the boy tried to laugh, only to gasp in pain. Twice, in fact. Atreus leaned past him, saw the fragment in his hand. Is that? It was. Kratos recognized the sparking shard, large as it was. Not the vengeance he had wished for, but it would do. He felt the ghost of a smile touch his face. The boy had battled Thor and lived to tell the tale. More than that, he'd forced a draw and claimed a piece of the oaf's hammer as a trophy. There could be no greater honor for a Spartan than to survive, to face a superior opponent, grow from the experience, and in doing so, live to fight another day. What was this feeling he felt? Was this pride? Was this what pride felt like? Pride not just in oneself, but one's children? It was a strangely humbling experience. Unfortunately, it was overshadowed by concern. Twice now his eldest son had met death. Twice he had survived. Twice now it had failed to take him. He was not sure there would be a third. Don't leave me like that again. Atreus clung tight to him. Not a chance. Kratos rumbled a sigh. We will not. How did you survive? The older boy grimaced. I nearly didn't. There was a woman. A woman? Not the girl, clearly, she looked just as interested. Who, boy? Much to his annoyance, the boy's face closed down. It's not important. I lived. That's what matters, right? The boy was keeping secrets, not telling him something. Ordinarily that would have made Kratos angry. It still did, in a sense. Furious even. He wanted to shake him. Demand his answers. But the boy lived when he had thought him dead. It cooled his temper, if only for the moment. What would Faye say? You have secrets of your own, grumbles. Who we are is not who we were. Wise words. Words he wished to live by. But wishing was different than doing. He wished Faye were still alive. He wished his sons made sense. He wished he could mstr his rage, now that it had awoken again. Wishing would gain him nothing. And there was work to be done. Can you stand? Freya bridled. No. Naruto spoke over her. Yes. Then we are leaving, boy. Gather your things. The summit awaits. Sure, he sat up, I'll be right ach, he doubled over, clutching his wound. The scream that followed was too painful to be faked, the sound rent his heart in two. His hands came away bloody. All hell broke loose. Boy! Brother! Blast it, he's opened his wound again. The girl pushed the blonde back down, mumbling a numbing spell under her breath. I told you, he's in no shape to travel. Wait. Naruto held up a hand before the girl could try and spell him back to sleep. Speaking of traveling, there's something you gotta know. He told them his tale, quickly, in succinct terms. Kratos found himself balked at the end of it. That cannot be what she meant. The girl wasn't having it, either. Whatever she meant, I forbid it. You're not going anywhere until you recover. She's got the right of it, a new voice chimed. Kids barely holding together. Kratos looked down. Blinked hard. What devilry was this? Atreus squinted. Is that a talking head? Pleased to meet you too, laddie. The younger boy laughed. Huh? Neat. Kratos rumbled a warning in turn. Quiet, head. Ah, and you must be there said head didn't flinch in the face of his ire. Friendly fellow, aren't ya? Listen, your son needs time to heal. He took a heavy wound, even for him. Let him rest. Mimir, be nice. Naruto made a distressed noise. And I'll be fine. His wide-eyed look struck Kratos. He could see the whites of his eyes bulging, the fear in them. He didn't want to be left behind. Anyone could see that. The girl tooted. Could you not wait a day or two? Or is your journey so pressing you would abandon your son? Could they? It felt like they'd gone from one battle to the next without rest. First the stranger, Baldur, at their doorstep, then the Draugr and the Reavers, then more Draugr still. And now Thor himself. Would the sons of Odin never let them be? He knew not what they wanted with the boys, his boys, but they would not have him. Not while he still drew breath. Yet to wait. One day. Naruto perked up. The hope in his eyes was almost painful to behold. You'll wait? We will? Atreus seemed torn, caught between duty and impatience. Kratos felt much the same. Yes, you will. The girl looked far too smug for his liking. Far too smug indeed. How kind of you to see reason. HRMPH. Must not get angry, he owed this girl yet another debt. Her smile didn't waver. You're welcome. Ha! Mimir chortled softly to himself. I'd expect no less of ya, Freya. Even weakened, your tongue's sharp as ever. Atreus balked. Kratos stiffened. Naruto slapped a hand to his forehead. The girl sighed. Thank you ever so much for that, Mimir. Freya? Much to Kratos' chagrin, Atreus recovered first. The goddess Freya? You didn't know? Mimir laughed sheepishly. Sorry. The boy knew, so I simply assumed. Naruto all but groaned into his palms. Smartest man alive, my ass. They would have words about that. But for now. Kratos glared at the girl, no, at Freya. You are a god? She dodged the question like the warrior she no longer was and busied herself with more herbs. When word gets out that Mimir is free, and what you've done to Thor's hammer, the wrath of Odin won't be far behind. I hope you've prepared yourselves. You did not answer my question. What would you have me say? I was the leader of the Vanir once, yes, but no longer. She raised her little arms, scowling loathsomely at herself. Not like this. A grow built in his throat. You did not think it important to tell me? She stepped closer, glaring up at him. Are you really going to lecture me about that? Kratos wanted to fall back into his own ways. Distrust her. But she had aided him twice now. First with her protection stave and now by aiding his family. If she weren't a god he would have considered her a good match for the boy. She still might someday, should she prove herself trustworthy. He longed to storm out and leave. But he could not. To do so would mean leaving the boy here with her. Alone. See? Faye's voice didn't feel imagined this time. You can be a good father after all. Her words were so close, her presence so strong now that he could almost imagine her standing behind him, a guiding hand on his shoulder. Go easy on them, Grumbles. He felt a tiny spark of something on his arm and whirled. Faye? His boys looked to him. Father? Did you say something? Kratos shook his head. Nothing. He was tired. We will rest. Naruto watched the fire fade. Flame burned low in the heart as the last of the logs gave up their light, casting flickering shadows about Freya's abode. He marveled at it, a little. Fire had always appealed to him. To see it burning so low now, like his spirit's well. It set him ill at ease. Heat was something of a constant for him, he gravitated toward it almost as much as he did the cold. The thought made him shiver a little. Laying in bed, lost in thoughts all alone. There could be no crueler fate. Kratos and Atreus would sleep outside while Mimir, being undead, would keep watch from the latter's belt. Freya didn't trust his body enough to let him join them tonight. And so he lay in her bed while she slept outside with the others. Sleep didn't come easily. Not to him. It seldom did. Tonight he feared what dreams might come, the monsters that may or may not be in his head. The fire flickered in the hearth. He kept watching it. One of the logs split with a sharp crack. No one stirred. Why would they? They were all outside, guarding him. Made him feel helpless, it did. If only he would heal faster. If only his body hadn't been pushed to its limits and beyond. If only, if only, if only. I'm not gonna get anywhere like this, DMN it, he heaved a growl. If sleepin' is the only thing I can do. Naruto sighed, closed his eyes and tried to roll over. A warm hand touched his head. Your thoughts are troubled as ever, I see. His eyes snapped open. Not Freya. Definitely not Freya. For a wild, inexplicable moment he thought it might be that Athena woman come to torment him, but no, the hand was coated in gentle fire and she was altogether more solid. He recognized the dark eyes and flaming air around her, matching her wild hair. His pulse slowed. It's you again. Hestia, right? The burning goddess smiled at him just as she had from Mother's pyre. You've remembered my name. You honor me. She'd come from the hearth fire, he realized. Of course I do. Hard to forget your last appearance. She studied him for a long moment. Your feelings betray you. You miss your mother. Low blow, that. And an awful reminder of what they'd lost. I do. We all do. Her smile shrank a little. You needn't mourn. She is still with you. What in blazes did that mean? Spare me the word games. You will understand when the time is right. A pause now, as she seemed to consider her words. And a warning, young Naruto. You should stay away from Alfheim. He set his jaw with a scowl. You can't honestly expect me to sit this one out. Then do not enter its light. You will not like what you find there. His soul shivered with ice and fire. What do you know? Her face closed down. More than I should, less than I wish. Ugh. He sneered. Gods and their riddles. Be quick with your words. It is not a riddle. It is the truth. I am unable to speak of it further. She will not let me. Here. She laid a hand on his head. A blessing from the goddess of the hearth, smooth fingertips stroked his scalp, bringing with them a pleasant numbness. May you enjoy a peaceful dreamless slumber and wake fully rested come morning. She kissed her fingers atop his forehead. His mind went under. Sleep well. Atrus did not sleep well that night. Resting outside was all well and good, he'd done that before with mother on occasion, but tonight was different. Tonight his dreams were fitful and furtive, filled with pain and loss so poignant it made the poor boy whimper in his sleep. Dark specters haunted his every step, bitter memories of his own powerlessness, his weakness, tormenting him in a fog of uncertainty and ugly doubt. And with them came the voices. They were the worst of it by far. They belittled him at every turn, demeaned him, humiliated him. Weak. Useless. Not like father or your brother. He tried to shake them off, tried to flee from them in his dreams, to no avail. Quite suddenly the haze cleared. In place of the once daunting darkness in which he'd been trapped, he now found himself somewhere else. An endless grassy plain sprawled before him, far as the eye could see, sheltered beneath a bright blue sky leading up to a lively green tree. Golden apples dangled from its fertile branches, enticing to the eye. He felt his mouth water at the sight of them. A woman stood before them, her back to him. Hello, little one. He flinched and she laughed, a soft, musical sound that soothed his ragged nerves. You needn't fear me. She turned to face him fully. Please. Come closer. I shan't bite, I promise. Warily, he did as she asked. And as he drew nearer he saw her. She was very strange for a lady. Almost translucent, really. Like some sort of green ghost. He could see right through her to the tree beyond. Yet for all that she was solid enough to hold one of those very apples in her hand. Likewise her eyes glowed a molten shade of gold as though lit from within by some harsh inner light. Who are you? No one of importance. She pressed an apple to her lips and took a hearty bite from it. Doing seemed to make her more solid, real somehow. Merely a stranger. His brow furrowed. Then what do I call you? Names mean little here, she smiled then, a smile that reminded him so much of mother. It made his heart ache. But you may call me Athena. He didn't know that name. It sounded nice. He gave his own without a second thought. Atrus. Tell me what ails you, young Atrus. What was the harm? This was a dream, after all. Not like it could affect reality or anything. And besides, after all he'd been through he was more than happy to have someone on his side, someone to rant to without fear of any harsh words or dismissal. And so he did. He told her everything. The green woman didn't question him. Not once. By the end, she had words for him. They were not what he expected. If you fear being left behind, then stand up for yourself. No one else will. Easy for you to say, he kicked at the grass sullenly. You're a ghost. You aren't real. You don't know what it's like to be weak. For some reason that seemed to amuse her. The green woman, Athena, smiled at him. Do you seek power, then? His heart skipped a beat. What? Another time, then. She looked past him, to something only she could see. You have a friend in me, young Atrus. A gilded green hand laid itself on his forehead. Sleep now. Remarkably he did just, sleeping a dreamless slumber undaunted by nightmares. When he finally awoke some time later he felt rested and to raised voices coming from within Freya's home. Father had left him to sleep on the grass outside, evidently to argue with his older brother. He probably hadn't mean anything by it, but it still stung for some reason. Drawing himself up, he edged toward a window, the voices growing louder with each step. Finally, he saw them. What do you mean, no? Naruto pushed himself up on Freya's bed, face flushed, sweat slicking his forehead. His bandages were clean, but there could be no denying his cough. I'm just fine. I can do this. Your fever has worsened overnight, you are not recovered. Father intoned, visage carved from stone. You will rest here until we return. His brother absolutely hissed and batted his hand away. I will not be left behind. Father's face darkened like a thundercloud. You will do as I say, boy. Enough, the both of you. Freya pushed herself between them, distracting them, and Atrus saw his chance. He slipped inside when they weren't looking and made his way to Naruto's bedside. A part of him worried about his brother's health, the other was happy to finally be of use, to be chosen, to have father rely on him for once. To show that he could be someone. Atrus. Naruto's voice snapped him out his reverie. Talk some sense into him. Tell him I'm fine. Athena's words hummed in his ear. Stand up for yourself. No one else will. Don't worry, we'll be fine without you. Naruto recoiled with a look of such pain that Atrus immediately regretted his poor choice of words. He'd hurt him. He knew he had. He hadn't meant to say it like that, only that they could handle the journey to Alfheim without him. I mean, he hastened to amend at the blonde's forlorn look, I'll be sure and bring back a souvenir for you. But the damage was done. Naruto rolled over and presented his back to him. Go. Have your fun. Freya laid a hand on his shoulder. Let us be off, then. Atrus perked up. You're coming with us? She smiled softly. Only for a little while. May I have a moment alone with him first? Father grunted. Only a moment. He paused and laid a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Even now he favored him. It wasn't fair. An ugly seed of jealousy was planted in Atrus' heart as father ushered him outside. He tried to shake the feeling off. It still took root. Well? Say your piece. Freya really tried, bless her. They just want what's best for you. Best? Naruto couldn't control the hiss that fled from his lips, nor the pain that followed. What's best? His voice peaked in distress, triggering another coughing fit before he mastered himself once more. They wouldn't know what's best for themselves if it smacked them upside the head. Perhaps that wasn't kind of him, but anger burned through him all the same. Father's stubborn, and after that disaster, Atrus wants to prove himself. They're going to do something stupid. True. She laid a hand on his chest, forcing him back to the bed. But trust that they'll make it past that, trust in them. His face closed down, to which she took a hold of his chin and steered him back to her once more. I know it isn't simple, but nothing is where family is concerned. I speak from experience. The bed creaked as she said beside him. I'm a mother myself. At least I was. She looked away. I haven't seen my son in a terribly long time. Naruto bit his lip until his tasted BLD don't say anything. Mustn't say a thing. If she knew he'd punched past his invulnerability. She read him like a book. You've met him already, I believe. Baldur. I have. We fought. She didn't say any more on the subject. He is the way he is because of a mistake I made. No kidding. The man was utterly mad, crazed and desperate to feel something, anything, after a lifetime of numbness. That would drive anyone insane. Have you thought to undo it? I cannot. Now it was Freya's turn to look away. He will come to harm and surely die. He could sense the fraught topic there, rife with danger, and wisely chose to skirt it. Is there a point to this? My point is this, she dared to lay a hand on his, gripped it now, to keep him from tugging it away. Don't let fear control you as it controls me. That's not a life worth living. He grunted and she sighed. You're going to be stubborn about this, aren't you? Very well. I'll be back shortly. No response, yet still she pressed on. After I lead your father and brother to Alfheim, I'm going to range deeper into the wildwoods for some potent herbs. Hopefully they'll be enough to help break your fever. Will you be alright with Hildesvini and Mimir for a while? Naruto's temper flared anew in a rush of heat, turning his cheeks red. Did even she doubt him? It was too much. I'm not helpless. I'm not saying you are. Her words were soft. You're wounded and ill. You need rest, yes, but you'll recover. He tore his hand from hers with more force than he should have. Not soon enough. She touched his arm, sighed when he shied away, and stood. As you wish. For once, she took the hint. I'll leave you be. Naruto. Something in her voice made him look up. Freya had paused at the door and looked back, eyes full of sorrow. Have faith in your family. Don't lose them to fear the way I did mine. He didn't want to lose them. He wouldn't. He just wanted them to understand. I'll try. Her face lit up. That's all I ask. She left and silence reigned. It gnawed at him like a wolf with a bone. A minute passed. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He looked toward the table. Nothing to say? Mimir creaked his good eye open. Didn't think it was my place to interject. No, of course not. For a talkative man he'd been unusually silent. He chose to see it as kindness. Do you think I'm weak, Mimir? Weak? The old sage chortled, head rocking a little where he'd been set. Not at all, brother. You're one of the few I've seen stand up to Thor and come away with their head intact. A bemused note threaded its way into his otherwise cheery disposition. You battered that BSTRD the same way he battered you. He'll think twice before tangling with you again. That drew a rueful smile to his face. But I couldn't beat him. Few have and live to tell the tale. Came the reply. Just rest, brother. Get your strength back. It'll all be right as rain by nightfall. He closed his eyes. A moment passed. Another. A minute now. No dice. I can't sleep. Suppose that's no surprise, given how riled up you were just now. Although he currently lacked the capacity to shrug, the old sage conveyed his mirth with a chuckle all the same. All right. Let me tell you a story or two to pass the time, then. Any preferences? Naruto shrugged helplessly. Not really heard all that many. Tell me a good one. Let's see how about Surtur and his flaming sword. And so Mimir began his tales. One after the other. Gradually, a fog fell over Naruto's mind. Sleep came easily. A rift had begun to form between the boys. Kratos could sense it, feel it in the way his sons had looked at one another before their departure. Even now it hung over him like a pall. The words of Atreus had only served to further widen it. He was not blind to such strife, but he did not know how to bridge the gap between them. Atreus had chosen to walk ahead of him and for once, he couldn't bring himself to call the boy back. He was hurting, burdened not only by Faye's death, but what he saw as his own weakness. Perhaps this time apart would allow their wounds, both physical and mental, to finally mend. Time healed most wounds. Not all, but most. Doesn't it, Grumbles? He nearly missed a step. Again he heard Faye's voice. What manner of madness was this? Had he truly lost his mind? Or was this some other power at work? Was he insane? Not yet. A foreign feeling fluttered in his old, cold heart. Did he dare to hope? Faye was mortal to the extent of his knowledge, but he had encountered specters of such before in the past. The same could be said of the dead here in Midgard. Sometimes ghosts were known to linger when they had tasks or regrets left unfulfilled. Did she have hers? He'd thought her at peace when she passed. Faye? Silence answered him. Kratos grunted and shook his head. Enough. Dwelling on such things would bring him no peace, only pain. Best to put it from his mind for now and focus on the task at hand. He looked to the girl, still silent by his side as she walked. This temple you speak of, it will take us to Alfheim and the light we seek. It will, she nodded gravely, granting him a sidelong look. And I know you're worried about them. He glared down at her. Who? Your boys. Clever. Kratos grunted again. It did not dissuade the girl. You're trying, bless you, she dared a smile. That's what matters. They'll understand. HRMM. He was. Faye would have known what to say. He struggled with such gratitude and so let the girl speak instead. That said, I will not be able to join in Alfheim you for long. Her words held a note of caution now. The curse placed upon me prevents it. I'll likely be torn from the realm and cast back here, to Midgard. Before that, and before we move the temple, here is what you must do. He listened intently to her words. Wise of her, to prepare them beforehand. And yet, the boy he will be well? Her eyes flashed with fire. I will not let him die. Naruto woke with a start. Burning. His entire body. Burning. He sucked in a ragged gasp and tried to sit up, only for his body to fail him. By the log, breathing hurt. Everything hurt. His wound ached, it felt as though a mountain were seated on his chest, even the act of breathing threatened to bring on a fresh coughing spasm. Questions raged through his mind, each without an answer. Where was everyone? Where was Freya? Why was it so blasted quiet, and dark? He pushed himself up with a start. Squinted into the gloom now, only to realize the fire had dimmed. Mimir? A muffled grunt came from the table. MMRGL. He looked to where he'd last seen the smartest man alive and frowned. Someone had draped a cloth over his horned head. Gagged him too, by the sound of it. My apologies, a low voice intoned before he could think to free him. I didn't want to be seen or interrupted by the head. A man was standing before the hearth, tall of shoulder and broad of back, his head concealed by a dark hooded fur cowl. His voice was low. Hoarse even, as though he hadn't spoken in quite some time. Naruto felt his hackles rise at the sound of it. He'd never heard it before in his life, yet he found himself on edge all the same. The stranger didn't turn to face him. Not yet. Their gaze remained fixed on the fading flame. Kratos, he said suddenly, apropos of nothing. You are his son. Naruto bit back a cough and lifted his chin. I am. Came the answering grunt. Not of his BLD, but if he took you in, BLD does not matter. Here, the stranger turned fully, revealing an earthen cup cradled in well-worn hands. A pale blue mist wafted from within its confines. Here. A remedy from my homeland, he paused, correcting himself at the last instant. It will ease the pain. Naruto eyed the cup warily, the stranger's approach even more so, until said intruder sensed his trepidation and finally sighed. Your caution is unwarranted, boy. I did not fight my way through fire and death just to poison you. Drink. Reluctantly, he took the cup with aching hands and then lifted it to his lips. It tasted strangely sweet. The ache in his chest began to recede, bit by bit, and with it, his lungs began to clear. Finish it all at once, the stranger instructed. Spare not a single drop. He complied and guzzled it down. Almost immediately, the world began to blur. I'm sleepy again. A side effect. The man crouched down, bringing his face level with his to consider him for a moment. At length he spoke again. I've observed you for some time now. You wield my weapons well. His head felt like it was filled with cotton. Your weapons? The arms of Sparta. He glimpsed the ghost of a smile within the shadows of the hooded cowl. I once wielded them briefly in another life. That didn't make any sense. Those weapons had belonged to Kratos, he corrected himself quickly. No one else had touched them. Who are you? It was getting harder to think. He could feel the medicine taking effect. HRMM, that grunt. It sounded just like his old man. I suppose there's no harm in telling you. You'll understand in due time. So saying, the stranger lifted his cowl. Naruto couldn't see him, not entirely in the low light, not with his vision dimming, but he glimpsed enough. A dark bearded visage stared back at him, marred by a vivid glowing scar etched into the left side of his face. It flowed down into a web of ugly marks from his neck into his lower torso, each pulsing with eerie life. He had never laid eye on this bearded brute, not once, yet for some reason he found himself reminded of Kratos. Why, he slurred the word, eyes drooping. Why do you look like? You know me. I'm a dead man. The very same who helped Freya carry you down that mountain after your battle with Thor. The stranger stood to leave, uncaring of his grasping hand. Sleep well, nephew. When we meet again, your training intensifies. He tugged the cloth off Mimir's head as he walked away. Naruto reached out a hand towards him. Wait. No use. Sleep claimed him once more. A stranger barred their path. Kratos didn't trust them for an instant. This odd, robed woman in white now stood before them, barring the way forward. Clearly elf, but not at all like the dark elf creatures they had encountered. He could only assume she was one of these light elves he'd heard tell of. Beyond that, he didn't know what to think of her. Worse, the girl was no longer here to advise them on such matters. She had been cast away some time ago, torn from this realm and cast back into her own. It was left to him to decide who or what this was, and moreover, what they wanted. Greetings, stalwart warriors. The light elf bowed her head. I am Alva. I wish to reclaim this temple. Might I ask for your aid? Nonsense and drivel. They hadn't the time for such a quest. Kratos grunted and walked past her. No. A hand touched his shoulder. I can make it worth your while, ghost of Sparta. How did she know? The Leviathan axe set itself to the woman's neck. Do not call me that. Atreus tilted his head. Ghost of what, now? Is nothing, boy. My apologies, the young woman raised her hands to show herself harmless. I have nothing but respect for your craft and did not mean to offend. You seek the light of Alfheim. Beneath his watchful gaze she tugged back her veil, revealing a pale face, white eyes and hair the color of driven snow. As do I. Our goal is the same. We would do well to work together. Perhaps sensing the refusal on his lips, she hastened on. I can speed your journey on, show you the hidden paths. Atreus looked his way, no doubt bright and hopeful at the prospect of having an ally in this wretched place. Well, if she wants to help us. Kratos scoffed at him as much as his soft-hearted naivete. They did not know what she truly wanted. You trust too easily, boy. The light elf offered them a winning smile. Rest assured, you've never had a friend like me. Oi, Sindri. Look what I got. The sanitary smith looked up from his workbench. Fumbled now. Is that a piece of Mjolnir? You up. Brock barked a laugh as he sauntered over. You gonna help me with this Sanuvabitch or not? Time's wasting. Naruto slept fitfully. He wasn't sure how much time passed, but it must have, because he woke to Freya and Brock arguing at his bedside, only to drift off again. He dreamed of Valkyries. Of a song of ice and fire. Of a hammer that both was and was not a hammer. Of things that both should and should not be. And there, at the end of his dreams, he saw them. A man and a woman holding hands. One was fire. One was ice. Each were terribly tall. Giants? He tried to call out to them. Neither heard him. Neither looked his way. As though they weren't even aware of his existence. Beware. They faded without warning, the dream shifted, and he found himself gazing at a familiar face mask. I bring you a warning, noble warrior. Blue eyes snapped open. Air? She tugged off her mask and his mind fizzled as he beheld the Valkyrie in her entirety. Appealing. That was his first thought, the first thing he noticed about Air. Her eyes were a deep piercing green, they almost seemed to glow in the low light, framed by hair so dark as to be cut from the night sky itself. And yet for all that she seemed weary. Beware. Her form flickered even as she spoke the word again, tendrils of darkness creeping up her body. Seek not the green woman. She is not to be trusted. Rise now. Awaken. You are needed. And then there was light. Naruto awoke to someone pinching his cheek. Rise and shine, Whiskers. Blearily, he recognized the voice and the blue face peering down at him. Up with ya. Brock, he coughed, grunted now as the dwarf pressed a glass of water into his hands. It cooled his dry throat enough for him to speak. How long have I? Dunno, the smith shrugged. You slept like the dead. Couple days, I think. His eyes bulged and he all but burst to his feet. Days? Freya was there even as he stood, catching him with one hand. Easy, now. You've been out of it for a while. Naruto opened his mouth to refute her. Paused now. Wait. He could stand? Breathe, even? In place of the once crushing weakness and exhaustion that had plagued him, he felt only his usual brimming vitality. His lungs were full, his cough not but a bad memory. Freya caught his eye and smiled softly, all too pleased with herself. Doubtlessly she'd tended to him while he slept. Or maybe the sleeping had sped his recovery on. He didn't know. Thank you. She preened a little. You're welcome. It was rather touch and go there for a while. Stop making kissy faces, you too. Brock butted between them. We've got something to show ya. Naruto quirked a brow, not at all comprehending. Show me now, then. Not here, ya Sanuvabich, the Azure Vulgarian scoffed as though insulted by the very idea. You and yours'll be needing a place to rest your heads first, and I ain't talking about that new blabbermouth of yours. Mimir harumphed at his side, rolling his good eye. Rude little bugger, aren't you? Quiet, you. Me and Sindri got's a place and a gift for ya. Naruto perked up at that. What kind of gift? Brock grinned. Your hammer's ready. Yggdrasil was appealing. Rather, its beauty was unlike any other Naruto had seen before, a realm apart from realms, rich and resplendent, yet ethereal and unknowable all the same. The realm between realms, Brock called it. Even now he couldn't quite get used to the colors. There was just so much blue and tree bits really, no matter where he looked. To say nothing of the path itself. He didn't like the idea of leaving Freya behind into Midgard, but what choice did they have? If she came with them here, Odin's curse would simply send her back to Midgard. There had to be some way to break it. There just had to be. Thoughts for later, he supposed. But maybe it was best she wasn't here for this. He'd already made the mistake of looking down once. He wouldn't be making that mistake again. Do not look down. Absolutely do not look down. Don't leave the path, no matter what. And you live here? His voice echoed in the void as he followed Brock down the path. Not here, Whiskers, the blue dwarf guffawed openly. We're not even there yet. Any second now. A doorway of purest light shimmered into existence before them, bringing Naruto up short. But not Brock. What are you waiting for? The Azure Vulgarian must have gotten behind him when he wasn't looking, because a hard slap on the back spurred him through. Go on. Get. Time's wasting. Light danced before his eyes and once it cleared. Tada. Brock flung out his arms and walked backwards, grinning ear to ear. Whatcha think? It was certainly a house to be sure, albeit unlike any house Naruto had ever seen in his days. At least he assumed it was a house. Looked more like a lodge really, grown from the very bark of the Yggdrasil itself. Another smaller tree bloomed tower from its roof to tower overhead, a silent sentinel to herald their arrival. Now ordinarily we wouldn't let folks in here, Brock rumbled, sauntering past him. But we're making an exception for you. You're a good kid. And this place is safe? He didn't fancy the idea of being ambushed by Thor again. Sure is. Not even Ol Odin can worm his way in here without our say-so, not that we'd invite the BSTRD. He quirked a brow Brock's way. And my family? Meh. Brock waffled a hand. Haven't decided yet. Doesn't matter right now. That bit of Mjolnir you brought helped me and brother make up right quick. Took a hell of a lot of thinkin' on our part while you was out, but we made it work. He's inside with the weapon. Come on. Now that made him curious. He'd only heard of Sindri secondhand from Atrus. So I finally get to meet your infamous brother. Huh. Brock guffawed. You say that now, but you might not be so cheery once you meet him. He's a strange bugger. Stranger than you? Brock only laughed harder and nudged the door open. Naruto ducked in after him. The Huldra brothers' house was cozy enough, if made for dwarves. To the untrained eye there wasn't much difference, but he could see it. Everything wasn't quite at the right height. At least the ceiling wasn't low. He spied a forge off to the left, a kitchen ahead, and living quarters off to the right. He found himself tugged toward the former. "Oh, you're finally here," a short man waved from the forge. Saw him. Squinted his way, now. "Huh? You're rather tall." It was there that he finally met the elusive Sindri for himself. Brock's brother turned out to be a skittish, bearded dwarf clad in mostly gold armor, wearing heavy gloves and a patchwork of other colors below his belt. Truth be told, he was utterly Una-like Brock in every way, hardly looked a thing like him, but then again he wasn't blue and also had a full head of hair, so... Sorry, Sindri averted his gaze suddenly, startling him out of his reverie. "Your eyes are just very red right now. Is that normal for humans?" "Were they?" Naruto blinked, wishing he had a mirror on hand. "Maybe? Must be my imagination." Sindri shrugged one shoulder. "I'm just putting the finishing touches on the handle. It'll be ready in a second." "Shasha!" Brock blustered. "It don't need no finishing touches. It's fine the way it is." "It's not fine. The balance is off. It'll break." "Says you. Lemme see that." Soon enough they were arguing. Both of them missed Naruto's satisfied smile. Brothers really were one of a kind, weren't they? He missed his own. Atreus sneezed loudly. Father turned to look his way. "Boy, are you ill?" "I'm fine." He whipped his nose with a grunt. "Come on. We're almost to the light." Sindri was an odd dwarf. He owned it, of course. He hadn't been, well, normal for a while now. It was his own fault, of course. He had his reasons for being the way he was. Brock thought he knew most of them. He didn't. Not really. Not since the incident. Even afterward he hadn't spoken to his brother for a while, not since that mess with Mjolnir. They'd broken their brand in half and gone their separate ways. Until quite suddenly they hadn't. Now here they were, putting the finishing touches on another weapon of mass destruction, another counter to Mjolnir. Hopefully this one would be put to good use like the Leviathan axe. Brock swore by this boy. Sindri had yet to meet him until today, but when he laid eyes on him, he knew he was different. He wasn't like Kratos or the young one. What was his name again? Atreyu? Athena? No, Atreus. Yes, that was the one. Where was he again? Right, he'd been rambling. Looking at this Naruto kid, he could see what Brock saw in him. His soul felt old. Tired. Stretched too thin. He wasn't an arrogant asser like Thor or a wanderer like Faye. He still couldn't believe she was dead, or even a gruff warrior like Kratos. There was just something different about him. He couldn't quite put his finger on it. Even now he watched him and Brock bicker and made not a sound. Patient. That was the word. There was a temper behind those red eyes, but a noble one, roused only in defense of him and his. This human was different. This weapon would be special. This would change the realms. The kid wasn't alright. Brock could tell. Wasn't no magic or any of that horseshit, nothing fancy about it. He just knew. Could feel it deep down in his scrot. Giving him Stormbreaker would put some of it right, yet he was still cracked. But hey, if he could knock that nughumper on his arse again, it would be well worth it. Crazy BSTRD might do more than bloody him this time. Faye. He was getting old, with all this thinking. Alright. He stepped back from the forge and pulled back the tarp, revealing the weapon. Take a look. The kid stepped forth to admire it. A trembling hand ran over its long handle. Brock preened at it. He'd argued long and loud with Sindri about that last bit, but it was for the best. Probably. They'd know for certain. Besides, they still had one last secret weapon for the future. Maybe it was still a little too early to bust out Dropner, just yet. But if they had to maybe the kid would find a way to use it. He was getting some ideas. Gone, he waved the kid on, pick her up. Gone, pick her up. Brock stepped aside, revealing a wooden handle. The rest was under a tarp. Naruto lifted it reverently. And he saw. The weapon was as foreign to him as it was familiar, a mad cross between the blunt business end of hammer and the cutting edge of an axe fused to a long, hardened wooden handle carved with intricate runes and veins of intricate metalwork. His mind immediately leapt to that of the Leviathan axe, but this was different. Longer. Forged not with the element of ice, but that of lightning and earth. Lightning. Another mysterious headache spiked through his skull at the thought. Naruto grit his teeth against it. Unbidden he recalled a man with black eyes. No, they were red. Weren't they? Well? Brock nudged him. Give her a whirl. No need to tell him twice. Thrusting the pain in his skull aside, he hefted his new weapon with a grin. Sparks sizzled across the steel and he heard them sing as he gave it a lazy swing. There was weight in the weapon, not overmuch, but enough to notice all the same. A quick twirl sent it cutting through the air. He braved the handle with both hands and grunted in approval. It felt like coming home, as though he'd been missing a small piece of himself and never known until this moment. Now for the real test. Sindri dragged out a straw dummy clad in ill-fitting armor. If we did things right, you should be able to cut through this like butter. Thunk. A peal of thunder rang out and the now ruined dummy crashed to the floor, cut clean in half at the weight. Sparks sizzled across the straw. Sindri he stamped them out quickly. One swing was all it took. He waved the dwarf back and struck again, scorching what remained. Brock guffawed. Sindri scowled. Well, you don't lack for imagination now, do you? Sorry, not sorry. Naruto lowered his new tool, grinning fit to burst. Does she have a name? Sindri quirked a bushy brow. She? Feels like a she, he shrugged. Can't quite explain it. Brock beat him to the punch. Well, seeing as you broke the big BSTRD's Mjolnir to make to this house about Stormbreaker. He felt a pleasant hum from the weapon at that. Was it alive? Sentient? The best weapons always had a bit of a spark. Sindri elbowed his brother in the gut. Really? Isn't that a little unoriginal? Pshaw! Naruto squeezed the axe a bit tighter. A good name. Hey, hey! Brock bellowed his way. Don't go getting all taciturn on us. The big fella does enough of that for the both of you. Now out you go. We'll try to fix that shield of yours in the meantime, but don't expect no miracles from us, why here? He nearly laughed outright. You're kicking me out? Just like that? Nah, Brock laughed. You got get used to your new axe. Best way to do that is practice. I'll even give you my shortcut, free of charge. Say hi to the missus for me. Oi! She isn't my. Brock grabbed his arm. The world lurched around them. And then, quite suddenly, there was ground. Naruto felt his stomach turn inside out against the sudden inertia. What little he'd eaten threatened to come boiling back up. He gagged and dropped to his knees, leaning on Stormbreaker to steady himself. It took nearly a full 9 seconds, but he managed to recover and drag himself upright, if only just. Brock, you absolute bastea and didansim. His words trailed off as he turned and found a distinct lack of dwarves around him. Brock wasn't here. He wasn't entirely sure where here was, not at first. Trees towered on either side of him, looming in the fog. He recognized them dimly. They'd come this way before finding Freya the first time. His lips drew down in an annoyed grimace. Some shortcut this was. He'd have to walk back to her home from here and quickly. It was too quiet. He didn't like the quiet. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. A raven cawed at him from a nearby branch. He gave it a black look and waded into the woods. Freya, you there? No response. He lengthened his stride. A wall appeared before him. He smashed through it, wishing he could sense her. But he couldn't. That worried him more than he cared to admit. Freya. The woods held only silence for him. Freya. Are you lost, son? Naruto whirled, Stormbreaker in hand. Cold steel kissed someone's neck. A stranger clad in heavy robes gazed back at him, leaning bodily against a gnarled old staff, face lined with age. A heavy eye patch dominated one side of his face, yet his remaining eye showed no fear, neither of him nor the prospect of imminent beheading. He took him in at a glance. The tattoos on his arms were clearly visible when he raised them. Was he surrendering? Who was he? How had he snuck up on him? Only then did he see the ravens in the trees, the creatures even now flying away from the man. His eyes widened. You. Let's not do anything rash. I mean you no harm. Something about those words caught at his heart, an ugly thorn. A one-eyed man surrounded by ravens. His BLD ran cold. Odin? Oh, so you know me. Good. A wan smile creased that tired face. That spares me the introductions. Seemed he be giving Stormbreaker one hell of a practice run at this rate. What do you want? One shoulder shrugged. A few things. I thought we could have a little chat, man to man, without anyone to interrupt. Chat, he said. This would end in violence. He just knew it. Was he ready for a fight like this? Fear reared its ugly head in his heart. Where is Freya? The Allfather shrugged again. Safe for the moment, I expect. If you're asking where exactly, I don't know. She always was good at hiding, the clever girl. Probably has Mimir with her, too. Not that I'd know. Naruto felt his eyes blaze and his temper with them. Why, you. Son, if I truly wanted to find her I could have thrown Thor at her and leveled these woods ages ago. Is that what you want? Odin ran a hand across Stormbreaker's edge, only to recoil with a rare hiss of pain. Would you look at that? DMN thing actually stung me. Seems the Huldra brothers have outdone themselves this time. I'll need to have a word with them about this. You won't hurt them. Or her. On the contrary, I'm happy for Frigg. Odin patted his shoulder and he flinched aside. It didn't faze the older man. I always did love her. A wistful gleam shone in his eye. Maybe I was a bit too harsh with some of those curses, but that was a lifetime ago. I'm glad to see her bouncing back. Maybe she'll come to her senses one of these days. Naruto twitched. Bouncing back? Was that what he called the suffering she'd endured? Have you gone blind in the other eye, too? No way. Freya would never do that. You might be surprised. Odin smiled. People change all the time. Heimdall wanted to come down here and rough you up a bit. I stopped him. You're welcome, by the way. Stormbreaker kissed his neck. What? Do you want? Odin smiled. How about peace? Naruto's face went blank. What? How does peace strike a simple soul like yourself, Thor's father spread his arms, palms open, but he didn't trust him for a moment. How about we just don't kill each other? Seek no quarrel with me, and I'll seek none with you. Sound fair? Maybe pass that on to your father and brother, eh? Naruto didn't budge. No? Odin tittered softly. That's fair. I've hardly given you reason to trust me. How about this, then? You and that brother of yours, you're both very special. You have questions. I have answers. Lies more like, he hissed back. So hostile. The Allfather laughed abruptly and sat down on a nearby tree stump, breaking their deadlock. If I wanted to kill you, I could have done it by now. It was hard enough to find this place out, he sighed when Stormbreaker spat sparks. Alright, fine. Take all the fun out of it, why don't you? Something hardened in his gaze. I know who you are. More importantly, I know what you are. You've forgotten so much. Your purpose. Your destiny. All those questions that VE been gnawing at you, all this time? I can answer them. Wouldn't you like that? To know the truth? Naruto hesitated. You know nothing. I know more than you think. Odin remained unfazed. Come with me to Asgard. All your answers await there. Was he mad? Had to be. He couldn't possibly be serious. Still smiling, the Allfather offered him his hand. Do we have a deal? The light was a lure, and Naruto knew it. Yet it called to him all the same, whispering in a voice too familiar to ignore, too distant to embrace. It wove itself through the marrow of his bones, beckoning him forward with a promise not of salvation, but of solace. A warmth he had not felt since the cold stole his mother from him. Behind him, the world burned. The clang of steel rang through the twilight air, a furious chorus of war cries and dying breaths. His father's roar echoed like thunder, his brother's voice a defiant storm against the relentless tide of dark elves. The glow from the temple shimmered like the surface of a dream. It pulsed, golden and inviting, just beyond his reach. Something ancient stirred within it, something that wrapped around his heart with fingers as gentle as a lullaby. He hesitated. Step forward, it whispered. Rest your bones a while. Haven't you earned it? A breath. A heartbeat. And then he moved. The light swallowed him whole. Who are you? The voice drifted through the mist, soft as the hush of snowfall. Naruto blinked, his vision adjusting to the radiance around him. It was not blinding, nor harsh. It was warmth pure, endless warmth seeping into the cracks of his weary soul. She stood in the center of it. Her hair burned like the last embers of a dying fire, her eyes deep pools of summer's fading glow. She was not of flesh, nor shadow, but something in between woven from memory, from longing, from the echoes of a love that should no longer exist. The mist curled around her, parting beneath the lazy dance of her fingertips. She was familiar. Not in the way one remembers a face, but in the way one recalls the scent of rain after a dry season, or the melody of a lullaby sung long ago. He had known her presence in the hush before the storm, had heard her laughter in the rustling leaves of the wildwoods. He wet his lips, his voice barely a whisper. Mother? She smiled, tilting her head as though amused by the name. Not quite. You have come far, my son. His gut twisted, his stomach lurching with the sick certainty that this was wrong. She was gone. She had been gone. He'd watched the flames claim her body. He had stood in silence as the snow swallowed what little remained. He had borne the weight of her absence, heavy and relentless, carved into his chest like a scar that would never fade. And yet. She stepped closer, raising a hand to his cheek. He flinched, but did not pull away. You are not lost, my little fox. The name, spoken with such tenderness, was a dagger between his ribs. It struck something buried deep beneath steel and silence, something raw and aching. His breath trembled. He looked at her, at the impossible truth of her standing before him, her fingers warm against his skin. But I saw you. His voice broke. And she only smiled. You saw what you were meant to see, she whispered, her touch featherlight. But I am not done. Not yet. Her fingers ghosted along his cheek, warm in a way that defied reason. He felt himself lean into it, an instinct older than memory, as if some part of him still believed in a truth that had long since been buried beneath ash and time. His throat worked, but the words refused to come. I want to believe. Gods, he wanted to. He wanted to close his eyes and surrender to the illusion, to let himself be the child who had once clung to her hands, who had known love without grief, warmth without consequence. But how could he? He had watched the world crumble beneath his feet before. He had watched another mother die, her blood a dark stain against the snow. He had buried her with hands too small to wield the blade they had given him in her stead. He had long since stopped hoping for the dead to return. And yet. She pressed her forehead to his, her breath a whisper against his skin. Wake up, my son. The light shattered around him. He awoke to warmth. Not the false warmth of the light, nor the fevered heat of battle, but something quieter. Something steady. The kind of warmth that did not demand, but simply was. Belatedly, he recognized the roof of the cottage above, and the fires flickering in the hearth. Dreaming, then. He'd finally fallen asleep. His fingers twitched. His breath came slow as he stirred, blinking past the residual glow still burning at the edges of his vision. There was a weight against him, small, fragile. Freya. She had curled her small body against him in his sleep, fingers knotted into his tunic as though he might vanish if she let go. Even in rest, she clung to him, as if seeking an anchor in the storm. She must have been a glorious warrior woman once, before she'd been cursed into this youthful form. He shifted a little against her and she shuddered at his stirring. A whimper escaped her lips, muffled as she pressed her face against his chest. Naruto exhaled slowly. He had seen warriors break in battle. Had seen his father carve gods apart with nothing but the weight of his fury. He had thought himself hardened, had believed there was little left in the world capable of shaking him. And yet. The sight of her, a goddess bound and broken, a creature meant for flight, forced to kneel, struck something deep within him. Something old. Something unyielding. His arms curled around her before he had even made the choice. Not as a warrior, nor as a shield brother, but as something simpler. Something softer. She did not speak. Did not need to. He felt the silent tremors that racked her frame, the way her fingers curled tighter in the fabric of his cloak, as though it too might be taken from her. As though everything she touched was doomed to slip through her grasp. He was not one for comfort. Not truly. But he could offer this. Rest, he murmured against her hair, his voice quieter than the crackling embers that smoldered in the dying hearth. I won't let him take you. A shudder ran through her. Her breath hitched, the fragile, desperate sound of someone who wanted to believe but had been given too many reasons not to. Promise? He tightened his grip. Promise. A tremor passed through her frame, but slowly, hesitantly she stilled. Her breath evened, her fingers loosening from where they had been knotted in his tunic. Sleep reclaimed her in slow, reluctant waves, as if still afraid the moment would be stolen from her. Naruto exhaled through his nose, the scent of firewood and ash settling into his bones. If he were kinder, he might have called this peace. Outside, the storm raged on. He had work to do. They say you are Magni reborn. The voice did not startle Naruto. It was too hesitant, too cautious, as if unsure whether it should be speaking at all. Naruto did not look up from the blade he was sharpening, the slow drag of steel against stone the only sound in the quiet of the camp. He wasn't surprised one of the Huldra brothers had paid him a visit, only that it was this one. Sneaky dwarves had a tendency to pop up when he least expected them. With Freya still sound asleep back in her bed, it fell to him to take watch just in case he came back. Even now, Odin's words rang in his head. Do we have a deal? He'd given his answer. There was nothing more to be said. In truth, he was glad for the visitor, he appreciated the company. The dwarf Sindri, he thought, shifted on his feet, his fingers twitching as he fussed with the hem of his tunic. And who are they? He asked idly, testing the edge of Stormbreaker with his thumb. The dwarves had outdone themselves, but he wouldn't be truly satisfied until he tested it himself. Care to enlighten me? Sindri made a vague gesture. Oh, you know. People. The ones who see you fight and wonder how a boy can tear through an army like a goddamned force of nature. Naruto snorted, turning the blade over. Still sharp as ever, but he had to be sure. I'm me. What else does it matter? Sindri hummed, though whether in agreement or amusement, Naruto couldn't tell. Oh, I know that. But some say you might be his son. Or Surtur's. Or something worse. The whetstone stilled in Naruto's hands. Something worse. Huh. The words clung to the air between them, heavier than they should have been. Sindri shifted again, clearly uncomfortable, but didn't back away. His kind were rarely ones to mince words when they believed them worth saying, even if they came wrapped in caution. Naruto resumed his task, the scrape of steel filling the space where silence might have settled. And what do you think? He asked after a moment. Sindri hesitated, rubbing at the back of his neck. Me? Oh, well. I think you fight like a storm no one can rein in. And I think that, if the gods are smart, they'll be afraid of what that means. Naruto gave a quiet hum. He had no love for gods. And if the gods had any sense, they would have no love for him either. Sindri sighed, stepping forward, ever so slightly, as if daring to breach the space between them. But I also think you didn't let her go. Naruto's grip on the blade tightened. Sindri did not elaborate. He didn't have to. You didn't let her go. It was not a question. It was not an accusation. It was simply the truth, spoken plainly, the way only someone who had spent too long in the presence of gods and monsters could say it. Naruto wiped the blade clean, slipping it back into its sheath. He met Sindri's gaze, his eyes colder than the steel at his hip. No, he admitted. I didn't. Sindri nodded, something knowing in his gaze. Good. Then Sindri turned and left, leaving Naruto alone with the fire, the weight of the blade, and the promise he had made. He let the words settle between them, thick as smoke, lingering in the spaces where silence stretched long. He had heard them before, whispered along the roads, murmured in dark corners, spoken in voices that never quite met his gaze. Something. That was what they called him. That much was clear. But what? Even he did not know. His hands bore no brand of divinity, no sigil of fate. He was neither Aesir nor Vanir, had not been forged in the fires of the 9 realms nor sung into existence by the will of gods. He had not been chosen by fate, nor cast aside by it. He was something else entirely. Something unmade, but what? The weight of the thought pressed against his ribs, as heavy as the steel at his side. He slid the blade home into its sheath with a soft snkt, the sound sharp in the hush of the camp. His gaze flicked to Sindri's, searching for something: disapproval, caution, perhaps even fear. He found none. Does it matter? Naruto asked, tilting his head. Sindri's mouth twisted, his fingers twitching against the hem of his tunic. To some, it always will. A pause. Then Naruto smiled, slow and sharp, a thing of teeth and certainty. Then let them wonder. Father. Hang on, boy. Kratos let the monster out. The next dark elf that came for him found themselves torn in half. He used those halves to bludgeon a second to death, tore out the spine of that one and used it as flail against a third, taking the creature's head clean off at its shoulders. The spine shattered in his hand soon thereafter, and he raged on, raining down blows on the next and the next and the next, BLD singing in his veins louder than ever, mirroring the frantic hammering of his heart. He didn't need his axe. His hands were enough. More than enough. Still more elves came, chattering in a language he did not understand. Kratos did not care. Rip and tear. Until it was done. The world descended into a red haze. Odin settled into his chair and considered the raven before him. The offer had been made, the hook baited. Now he had but to wait. But that didn't mean he couldn't amuse himself in the meantime. He had eyes everywhere, after all. And so he watched. A god of war. Kratos, father, eventually returned bloodied, his axe slick with the remains of dark elves. Atreus was at his side, his bow slung over his shoulder, his breath still quickened from the fight, eyes bright with something sharp and eager. The boy had done well. Naruto could see it in the way his shoulders sat, straighter, more sure. His father had said as much, in his own way. Naruto did not ask. He only stood, shaking the stiffness from his limbs. Freya stirred at his side. Her breath caught before she opened her eyes, lashes fluttering against the fog of sleep. There was a moment, a single moment, where she was still caught in the quiet embrace of rest, unburdened by the weight of memory. And then she saw him. Kratos. She tensed, her body locking as her fingers dug into Naruto's arm before she caught herself, before she forced her hand to ease, though not to let go. Her voice was quieter than usual when she spoke. You return. Kratos grunted, ever the warrior. The light is ours. Naruto hummed, but did not answer. The warmth at the back of his skull had not yet faded. A phantom touch. A whisper of something that should not have been, yet had been. He thought of fire and warmth, of whispered names and quiet lullabies. He thought of a woman with flame in her hair, smiling in the light, her voice a thing both distant and too close. And he wondered. If she had been real. Or if she had been the cruelest trick of all. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for more crossovers. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author NeonZangetsu on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.